we saw some evidence that there were some checks made payable to Charles Stewart.
Yes, sir.
And I want to say, and I don't remember them, but sometime, let me show them to you. Well, no. Ori, are those in evidence yet?
No, you objected to them.
Okay.
Actually, no, I don't. I think they were actually admitted. I apologize.
Can you tell the court which one they are, just to see if they're in there or not?
It was Exhibit 5. I believe you agreed to admit the copies of all the checks, including Exhibit 2A and B.
I'm waiting for the court to confirm, and then I'll proceed.
What exhibit was this?
It's Plaintiff's Exhibit 5 in the trial notebook, Your Honor. It is.
Yeah, it is admitted. Plaintiff's Exhibit 5 has been admitted.
Sure. Mr. Tovar, there were some checks shown that in early 2017, and I believe until April or May, but don't hold me to that date, checks were made payable to Delta Security Solutions. Then it shows that I believe the next check is in September, if I'm not mistaken, that the checks were started being written to Charles Stewart.
Yes.
Did you always pick up the checks?
Yes.
So you were the one who was responsible for picking up the checks from El Paisano?
Yes.
And that's when you would see Vicky and pick them up from Vicky?
Yes, sir.
So Vicky knew who you were?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know why the checks were being written to Charles Stewart?
When we went to BCFI, we had an agreement with Warren. We went to go file our DBA. Me and Stewart was going to be partners with Warren for BCFI.
Okay.
So during that time, we had to do all the transition.
Okay.
So we we ended up getting the checks, putting the name till we got our banking financial institution, like Chase or whatever, until we got that situated. So we got the check, and then I would go pick up the checks, take them out to PLS, cash them, and then take it to the office, and then let them disperse it to the officers.
Okay. Now, there were El Paisano was not deducting payroll tax and Social Security tax from y'all, were they?
No, we had our tax ID and all that stuff, and I believe it was supposed to be 1099 since we were subcontracted.
So you're contracted, just like a plumber.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. There were some checks that made payable to you. Can you explain to the court why they?
That's probably at the time. Stewart, he got real sick and ill.
Okay.
He has some personal illness, and so I had to oversee as far as receiving that. Since I was also supposed to be partner, so they said, okay, that's fine. Since you're running it, Frank, go ahead and get the checks, this and that. I had told Vicky, and Vicky said, okay, it was fine. I explained to her the situation, and then we went from there and just continued service.
Did the proceeds of those checks go to you or to BCFI?
It went to BCFI.
And is that what BCFI used to pay the guards that were working at El Paisano?
Yes, sir.
Including you?
Yes, sir.
So you would take the money and then they would give you your share of it.
Right. I go cash the check, then take it to the office and give them the money so they can disperse it and however they need to do it, if they need to write personal checks or whatever.
Okay. All right. When you handed the contract for BCFI to Vicky, did you believe that BSFI was a registered? There's an echo. May I think that's what May I turn his volume off?
May.
Forgot where I was. Yeah. Did you believe, were you told by your superiors, partners, bosses, that BSFI was an existing security guard company licensed?
Yes. Warren Williams had a pre-existing security company. That's why we went with him.
So, and it was under BCFI?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then did you do what you needed to do as far as complying with the law, giving your required information to BCFI so they could file it, fax it, whatever they do with the state?
Yes, I filled out an employee application, put my information, everything, gave them my credentials, my social security, my driver's license, the I-9s, all the stuff to verify who I was. And then went through the background check history, which is through the state of Texas, and then started working.
In fact, are you still registered as a security officer?
Yes, sir.
Do you mind? Do you have your security license with you? Because you showed it to me earlier.
They
Can
come
you
in
get
an
it-
ID now. They used to be in a paper. So that was a lot of problems too, because a lot of security officers had to get copies and duplicates because they used to come in a paper.
Can you get a little bit closer to the camera so the judge can see it as well? And hold it so, no, that's too
Oh,
close.
too far?
Yeah, just hold it so you can focus. A little back.
I can't. Can't see it.
I don't, we can't see it. All
I
right,
need-
can
I
you
can
read?
see it's a driver's license.
It's like a driver's license, Your Honor.
They're like a driver license now, Your Honor. They used to be a paper copy.
And can you read for the court? And I'd be more than happy to take a copy and send it to Mr. Rafael and to the court. Can you read what he says under the Texas?
It says Texas Private Security Registration, print date September 20th, 2019, expires 04/15/2021, registration number, any registration type, see the back of card. My category, which I was certified in, was SA for semi-automatic / STG for shotgun. It has my date of birth, my hair description, my eyes, my sex, my height, my weight, my full name, and then it also says issued by the Texas Department of Public Safety, PO Box, and all the addresses at the bottom right there.
But it looks like a driver's license now, but
Correct.
it's kind of like a concealed handgun weapon. That
Correct.
has a,
So now what it is that the state troopers, since we're regulated by the Texas, by the Department of Public Safety, if any state troopers or any private security investigator comes on site, which they do from time to time, they'll come on your site and check your credentials. They'll check your service weapon, make sure there's nothing illegal with you, make sure your firearm is not an unregistered firearm and is not unauthorized. And they just swipe it and it shows up your history, shows you're active and what company.
Here's a question I want to ask you. You testified that Ms. Martinez took a swing at you.
Yes, sir.
You testified that she grabbed your private parts and kind of scratched you or bit you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Why did you not file charges against her?
I've been dealing with, it was the only reason I didn't file charges. The simple fact was it was, I could have saw it was a simple mistake or whatsoever, but the simple fact was I had a lot of patrons there. I didn't want to take the time to file the charges, and I've been, I deal with drunks all the time, so it was, I just felt like I didn't want to bother with it.
If Ms. Martinez has complied with your request or order, whatever we want to call it, to leave once you're outside before any physical contact, what do you think would have happened?
If she would have just complied and got in her vehicle and left, it would have been good. There would have been no situation. I would have carried out, continued doing my job.
Okay. Now, the two daughters.
Your Honor, did you hear my objection?
I could not.
I said it calls for speculation, but he already answered. But if you could still.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Sustain, re-ask it.
If Ms. Martinez had listened to you and walked away when you asked her to leave the premises, would you have still handcuffed her, brought her down to the ground?
No. If she left the property and complied, there would have been no issues.
In fact, does that happen at El Paisano or other places where you work, where you escort somebody who's intoxicated out and you tell them to leave and they comply? Does that happen?
And majority of the time it'll happen, and there's just some that'll want to make a point or try to set an example, which I don't understand why, but.
Had she not taken a swing at you, but still refused to leave, okay? So there was no physical contact. What would you have done in that situation? What's your normal protocol?
I would have still tried to have a verbal agreement with her. She'll try to de-escalate the situation the best way. Say, ma'am, I need you, please leave, please leave, please leave, until where it becomes obnoxious. If you don't leave, then I'm gonna go ahead and notify law enforcement, and then you're gonna be cited for criminal trespass.
So had she not come towards you, take a swing, but still refused to leave, you would have called the police officers to come to the scene?
Yes, sir.
Is that normal protocol?
Yes, sir.
And then you testified that what changed the circumstance was her taking a swing and you grabbing her arm.
Yes, sir.
So that's the only difference here, correct?
That's the only difference there. Yes, sir.
At any time while you took Ms. Martinez down to the ground, was your body in full contact? I mean, your arm in contact with her arm?
Was my arm in contact with her arm?
Yes, when you bring her down.
As I'm arm barring her down, we're using right here, the forearm right here. And I have my hand on her wrist, which is doing a lock wrist.
Okay.
So do a control technique, which we're just bringing down. Other than that, that's it. And once I get her handcuffed, my hands are off.
So you're actually holding her with two hands, actually, right? Bring it
On
down
one
with,
hand, that's correct.
you
Wrist
bring it,
lock, wrist lock one hand, and then the arm bar the same arm. Just bring it down right here in the back, pushing the median, and then just come down.
is
Apply
that to,
pressure.
is that to prevent her from falling?
Yes,
Okay, because if you don't use the other arm and you just bring it down, she would fall, right?
correct.
Okay. Did at any time while you were standing close to Miss Martinez, did her head hit the ground hard?
No,
Did any part of her body, other than you bring her down to the ground, hit the concrete? I mean, do you understand the difference between coming down and then hitting? If I pushed you, you're going to fall down, hit the ground.
correct.
But if I bring you down, I bring you down to the ground. How
Correct.
would you describe the way you brought her down?
I brought her down to where I'm easing with her going down as myself going down with her. It was no large thump or anything where my knee's going to hit the ground with her.
Okay. Because
But
if you
at that
did,
time, I'm still in control because I'm not trying to slam. I'm trying to just ease it down, have control.
because it's important for you to keep control, keep your hands on her so you can control her, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I think you testified your attempt was to put a handcuff on her.
Yes, sir.
So there was no point in letting go of her because then you don't have the arm in your possession to put a handcuff on, right?
Correct.
All right. Anything else? Mr. Tovar, thank you very much. I pass the witness.
Hey, any cross?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Tovar, my name is Ori Raphael. I represent Miss Elizabeth Martinez. You are still under oath. You understand that, correct?
Yes, sir.
You went over some of your background with Mr. Pema. Just very briefly, how old are you?
I am 39 years old.
And how tall are you?
About 5'10", 5'11".
How much do you weigh?
Probably about 225, 220, something like that.
And you also stated you were a Marine, right?
Yes, sir.
And when were you a Marine?
I was a Marine from 1999 to mid-2004.
What did you learn in the Marines?
Honor, courage, and commitment.
What was your job at the Marines?
I was motor transportation logistics. I was a line NCO.
Did they take hand-to-hand combat in the Marines?
Yes, sir.
You said also you were a police officer.
Yes, sir.
I believe you testified you resigned in 2018. Is that correct?
Still there?
Yes, sir. I believe so. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, Your Honor?
Mr. Raphael, you still there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you asking questions or no?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead.
Why did you resign as a police officer?
Yeah, I can't hear you. Can you hear Mr. Raphael? Ken?
Yes, sir.
Morgan, can you hear me? But I can't hear anyone else.
Judge, this is Tony. You're coming across fine.
Okay, try again.
Start from the beginning, Your Honor?
Just from what I said, I couldn't hear you. Just start from there. He was talking about the Marines. Last thing I heard.
Yeah, so what was your role in the Marines?
Yeah.
I was line NCO for motor transportation logistics.
And they teach you hand-to-hand combat in the Marines?
Yes, sir.
Teach you how to kill people?
I'm sorry, what?
They teach you how to kill in the Marines?
No, they teach us how to defend ourselves.
Understood. And you said also you were a police officer
Yes, sir.
and you resigned in 2018, correct?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
That's what you testified to.
Yes.
And why did you resign as a police officer?
I was in a small town dealing with the politics. I just couldn't deal with it no more. So I just resigned. I just didn't like the way the policing and the politics was going.
Okay. And when you resigned as a police officer, why didn't you go look for another job as a police officer?
I surrendered my license. I was just done with it. I didn't want to deal with it. That was already the second department, and it was the same thing, small town.
But again,
I was trying to be that person that was trying to make a difference. You know.
If you surrender your license, that means you can't be a police officer again, correct?
You can. You just have to go to the academy again.
Were you charged with a felony as a police
What's
officer?
that?
Were you charged with a felony as a police officer?
Objection,
No.
Judge. Objection, Judge. I don't think being charged is relevant. If there's a conviction, I'd be more than happy if Mr. Rafael wants to put a conviction on the record.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you just take the witness on voir dire?
Okay, if I'm, may I? May I, Judge?
Well, no, I was going to have Mr. Rafael take the
Let me
witness on
just
voir
change my
dire.
question. Were you indicted as a police officer?
Yes.
What were you indicted for?
It was definitely a firearm and supposed to be tampering with government record.
And what was the result of getting indicted for felony with tampering with a firearm?
Dismissed.
So is that why you resigned as a police officer?
After that, yes.
And when did that occur?
That was around 2018 is when I surrendered my license.
That did not happen in 2015?
Don't believe, honestly, I don't remember the date. I thought it was 2018. I'm not 100% sure. I would have to look at the paperwork. I don't have the paperwork with me.
Sorry, you don't remember the date that you were indicted for a felony? And resigned as a police officer?
No, I don't remember because I never knew I was really indicted until my attorney called me.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to relevancy of this. There's no conviction. If he can
He
show.
lied under oath, Your Honor. He said he resigned in May of 2018 when we have evidence to show, and I will show it on the screen here, Your Honor. This is a report of resignation or separation of license holder. Are you Frank Carlos Tovar?
Mm-hmm.
And you lived at 1630 Savoy Street?
Correct.
It's very difficult to see, but I'll zoom in. The dates here says start date is 10/24/2014. Do you see that?
Yes. And do you see which department that was from? That's not terminating. That says terminated due to being indicted to a felony. That's my termination. That's my L4 right there. Showing my F5, which is showing that I was already discharged as a peace officer from the department.
It says here that it's general discharge. Dishonorable or honorable is not checked.
No, that's false.
No, that's what it is.
I don't know whether that says general because I have honorable. All my copies show honorable.
Well, I haven't seen those copies. So what is TCOL?
TCO is Texas Commission of License Standards for Law Enforcement.
And when did you send your resignation to TCOL?
I surrendered my license. I voluntarily surrendered my license.
And
that was in 2018.
Let me share my screen again. This is the Texas Commission of Law Enforcement quarterly meeting agenda. Have you seen this logo before on the top left?
No. Well, that logo, yes, I've seen it.
And that is the Texas Commission of Law Enforcement, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the quarterly meeting dated June 23rd, 2016. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's keep scrolling down here. Permanent surrenders. What is a permanent surrender?
Just surrender your license. Permanently surrender your license.
And is this you, Frank Carlos Tovar, from Coffee City Police Department?
Yes, it's me from Coffee City Police Department.
So we can agree that you actually surrendered your license in 2016, not 2018, correct?
Okay, well, no, I have the date wrong.
And you didn't resign. You were permanently surrendered. You permanently surrendered your peace officer license, correct?
No, I voluntarily surrendered my license. That's on paper document.
That's near permanent.
That's how TCO will classify it because he surrendered it.
Furthermore, Mr. Tovar, what specifically were you indicted for again?
The firearm and tampering with government record.
Why did you tamper with the government record?
I never did. That's why it was dismissed.
But if it was dismissed, how come you had to permanently surrender your license?
Because I didn't want to deal with the politics.
Did you have to
I was
post a
done.
bond?
I was done being a law enforcement officer.
Okay. So then after you permanently surrendered your law enforcement license for being indicted on a felony, you became a security officer?
No, I was still a licensed security officer.
Okay. And where were you working when you resigned or when you permanently surrendered your law enforcement license?
2016, 2014. I was with Delta in 2014, so I was still probably with Delta at that time because we also provided off-duty police services.
You were with Delta. And when did you leave Delta?
Sometime in 2017.
But you don't recall the exact date?
No,
And I think you just testified that you taught Lucio Cano how to do security work. Is that right?
that's correct.
So at the time you left Delta, it was all online where you can just go online and change your security license or?
No, TOPS wasn't developed yet until 2008, till 2018, 2019. So
Yes, but you
TOPS
also
only been
said-
up and running.
But you said Lucio Cano doesn't know how to do it, and you knew how to do it, right?
Yeah, I know how to do it.
Share my screen again. This is the website, Your Honor, and Mr. Payne's going to object that this is on TOPS website.
Okay.
I'm looking here, Mr. Tovar, at your TOPS page.
Correct.
It says here you're terminated from Delta at September 1st, 2017. You see that?
Okay.
And that's incorrect, isn't it?
No, that's the date they put. That's the date they terminated me.
But you said that you taught Mr. Cano how to do it, and he just did it wrong, right?
He's not the one that was running the company. He has somebody else running the company. That's not him doing it. If that was him doing it, he would have put something else. I don't understand. I mean, I'm no longer affiliated with Delta.
You testified earlier that you were terminated in May. Is that correct? May of 2017 from Delta?
No, I never said a May.
When did you say?
I never gave a date I was terminated.
When did you start with BCFI?
After the contract was terminated with Delta, I don't recollect what date that was.
Your Honor, I'm looking here at the TOPS website, and Mr. Tovar does not have BCFI listed or Bureau of Crime Force Investigators listed even on his affiliations. And I would like judicial notice of that.
Your Honor, I think he's testifying again.
Yeah, I will take judicial notice, but Mr. Tovar, why isn't BCFI listed here?
Your Honor, honestly, I don't know. I filled out the paperwork. I gave it to the admin. It was their job to update it, and that was it. Once the new TOPS allows us to implement the license number, and then once we put the license number, it still goes to the company, and they have to authorize it on their end when what date we hire and everything, saying that we're authorizing to be an employee for the company. So that's on BCFI.
Mr. Tovar, you're a security guard professional. Why wouldn't you change that or send a letter in to change that?
You don't have to send a letter. I just told you it's on TOPS.
Well, it's not on TOPS. It says you didn't work for BCFI in 2017 or ever.
For who?
You. Did you ever work for BCFI on the TOPS website?
Yes.
Well, it's not on the website.
Well, that's what BCFI's admin. That has nothing to do with me. I did all my paperwork that was told to do to me, and gave them all my credentials and everything. They're supposed to do the transfer. I submitted everything. I went on TOPS, put my input that I was going to employ with this company. They still have to acknowledge it on their side. The company still has to acknowledge on their side.
It's BCFI's fault is what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, we'll get back to that. I believe you testified and you and Mr. Payman had a conversation about your first conversation with him was in February of 2020. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
When exactly was that?
I was at court. It was, I don't know whose court or whatever it was. That's when I met him.
So you showed up for the trial in this lawsuit, correct, in February?
Did I show up for what?
The trial in this lawsuit in February of 2020. Do you recall?
February 2020?
Yes.
This year?
Yes.
Was it this year?
It was this year.
Is that when we actually went to the court?
Yeah, that's when you showed up.
Honestly, I don't remember. If it was, then it was, all I remember was in February. I just don't remember what year. I mean, we've been under the corona, so I'm not sure.
Well, in February, there wasn't the coronavirus lockdowns yet, but who told you about the trial in February of 2020?
Mr. Payman had called me.
He called you out of the blue to tell you about the trial, correct?
I got called out of the blue. Yes, sir.
So you never spoke to him before that.
No.
When were you served in this lawsuit?
Serving this lawsuit when?
When were you served as a defendant in this lawsuit? Do you recall?
I just got subpoenaed Sunday.
Not subpoenaed. And where were you subpoenaed, by the way?
At his office.
At whose office?
Mr. Payman's.
Why were you at his office on Sunday?
I was supposed to come on the weekend because he had went to my mother's house to get in contact with me. He had an old number, which apparently he had an old number, which I was unaware. And he had contacted me, said, hey, I need to subpoena you. And as I couldn't make it that Saturday because I had a family emergency. So at the time I said, okay, I'll meet with you Sunday. And I came to his office Sunday.
Okay, and what did you guys discuss on Sunday when you went into his office?
He just asked me what happened, and I gave him a brief down what happened, and that was it, and I went on my way.
So Sunday was the first time you told him about all the details of the situation or what
Yes, sir.
happened on August 18th?
Yes, sir.
You didn't tell him anything about it in February of 2020?
No, because I was just there. Y'all were already done with court when I got there.
No, you showed up at the beginning.
No, I never showed up in the beginning because I was sitting outside. Y'all were already leaving.
Understood. Were you ever texting with Mr. Michael Pema?
Ever what?
Text messaging.
No.
If I may, Your Honor.
What did you say?
If I may, Your Honor, share my screen again.
Sure.
This is from the hearing, Your Honor, on March 6, 2020. And this is Mr. Michael Pema stating unequivocally, I have text messages with me where I gave him the address saying you better show up because this is a trial. Mr. Pema is referring to you, Mr. Tovar, when he said he was text messaging with you in March. I think you need to be a little more honest
In
with
March
us.
or in February? You just said February was the trial.
But you just testified you never texted with Mr. Pema. So
But you never
did
specified when was the text. I have not received any text except for the trial. That's it.
Well, this is what Mr. Pema told the court. Then let me ask you this. Do you
So
recall
was it
being
February or
served?
March that he supposedly texted me?
Okay. Well, you
You said it was
testified that he
February,
doesn't
right? That's when we had the trial. That's the last time I spoke to him. Since then, that's it.
All right, please let me finish the question because the court reporter has to write down what we're saying.
Okay.
But you testified earlier that you never texted with him. Do you understand? Do you remember saying that?
Mr. Raphael, I'm not sure any of this is really relevant about the text messages. So let's move along.
Well, the reason it's relevant, Your Honor, and I'm getting to now, but when were you served in this lawsuit, Mr. Tovar?
I didn't know anything about the lawsuit until he told me about the trial. That was it.
Were you served with this affidavit or citation on November 14th, 2018?
I don't remember.
Were you working at El Paisano's in November of 2018?
2018 was I in service? Yeah, should have been. I should have been. I don't know. I think I was there. I'm not sure. I don't know. I remember actually my actual end day. I know it was in December. I just don't remember which actual year.
In December?
When we terminated with Paisanos, we stepped ways because Paisanos didn't need us no more because service was running slow.
And when did El Paisanos tell you that specifically?
In December, I just don't remember the actual. I can't remember the actual year.
End of December, beginning of December?
I would guess say in the beginning of December. I guess I'm not 100% sure.
You don't know 100% sure?
I'm being honest with you. I don't remember the actual date.
And how were you terminated by El Paisanos?
Word of mouth say, hey, we don't need no more security. Okay, cool. Thank you. If you need us again, let us know.
Who told you that?
That would have been what's her name? I forgot. The daughter, what's her name? Deanna, I think it is.
And if you saw Deanna today, you'd recognize her?
Yeah.
When's the last time you've seen her?
The last time I saw her was that time, that February when I saw my trial.
You saw her at the trial? Is that correct? You saw her at the trial?
Yes.
And in November of 2018, or I'm sorry, going back to November of 2018, when you were served, what company were you working with?
In November?
Of 2018. What
2018.
security company were you working with?
Let's see here. To December. It should have been BCFI. Should have been BCFI.
Okay, and this is live on YouTube, but I have to ask you. So, Mr. Pema, in the past 2 days, we've talked a lot about. He's brought up injuries to you and your testicles. When did you inform Mr. Pema about the attack on you by Mrs. Martinez?
The day when I talked to him when he subpoenaed me. I met with him for the subpoena.
So that was the first time you ever told him about Miss Martinez hurting you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Was that subpoenaed the first time or for this trial?
This trial, Your Honor.
You were not subpoenaed for the first trial, correct?
No.
He just called you and told you.
Yes.
And anytime someone calls you out of the blue and tells you to show up, you do.
Well, had an attorney call me. Why would I not?
It's the first time you guys talked.
That February, like I told you, that was the first time I met him.
Your Honor, I'm going to get into the facts. I just need to make sure this is very clear. This is defendant's response to discovery from this lawsuit and El Paisano's response from July 2019. While being escorted out, it says here in interrogatory 3, she grabbed the security officer's private parts. You only told him that in February. Are you sure you didn't speak prior to February of 2020? You're under oath.
When was that one?
July of 2019.
I don't know if we ever talked again. Honestly, I can't remember. Honestly, I don't. If we did talk again, it might have been a brief message or something, or it might have been a brief phone call. But only time I remember seeing him was in February.
So let me ask you this. Did you speak to anyone else from his office prior to February 2020?
I don't know. I honestly can't tell you if I've talked to anybody else. I've because I have my own personal attorney that I talk to, so I'm probably getting confused with that. I don't know, because I was dealing
Who
with
was your
some stuff
personal
at that
attorney
time.
at the time?
Huh?
Who was your personal attorney?
Christopher Lewis.
Okay, and did you tell him to call anybody about this? Did you give him the
No,
lawsuit?
I never said that. I just said I had some personal issues I was dealing with, and I'm probably getting confused with my attorney.
Now, El Paisanos was served with this lawsuit in December of 2017. Are you aware of that?
No, until now. Now I know where because we're involved in this.
So from December 2017.
Judge, I object. I was trying to put my meaning. El Paisano was not served in December. Please don't misstate facts. You filed a lawsuit in December. You served them in January or February. Please put that up and show the judge. Before
You're
you
absolutely right,
mislead people.
and I will apologize. I will pull
That's
that up.
okay. That's okay.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Just real quick, Mr. Pema, how many more witnesses do you have after Mr. Tovar?
I don't believe I have any more, Judge.
Oh, he's the only witness. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, let me share my screen. I apologize. So Mr. Payne is absolutely right. El Paisanos was served in January of 2018. And from January 2018 to December, for a full year, were you still working at El Paisanos?
We quit in December.
Of 2018, correct?
I believe so, yes, sir.
And nobody between January of 2018 and December of 2018 talked to you about this lawsuit?
No, I was unaware of it. I only knew about it when February, when he called me and said, hey, I need you at trial, this and that. I'm like, what's going on? I get here, he tells me what the situation is. I'm like, what the, okay, I need you to testify, what happened, this and that. I said, okay.
So where were you watching the other testimony from this trial in the past 3 days?
YouTube.
And were you watching it from home or in Mr. Payne's office?
No, Mr. Payne's office.
So you were at his office for the past 2 days, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Payne is nodding along, Your Honor. I don't want him to coach the witness in that regard.
I'm sorry?
You were nodding yes to him on that. It could have been subconscious, but why did you watch the testimony?
He subpoenaed me and told me I needed to be here, and I've been here waiting to testify.
So you had to you've testified before when you were a law enforcement officer, is that correct?
Correct.
How many times did you testify?
I would say probably between 3 to 5 times, maybe.
And why did you have to testify those 3 to 5 times?
Traffic tickets. One was a drug bust, and majority of the ones were traffic tickets. Only did two drug busts.
Okay, so let's go now to the Private Security Act. You are aware of the Texas Private Security Act, correct?
Correct.
And when specifically did you become a licensed security officer?
I was saying, level 2 was back in. Well, actually, it was level 1 before they went to level 2 and 3. It used to be 1 and 2. That was 2000. I know it was after I got out of the Marine Corps. It was later after that. Somewhere probably in 2004, 2005, maybe.
And
I started.
Level 2, is that with a firearm?
No.
When did you get the firearm efficiency?
I couldn't even tell you. I've been level 3 for so many years. I couldn't tell you when was the first time I got level 3 certified.
Okay. And so as a security guard job, can we agree it's a very high risk job?
Yes.
All right. And we can agree as a high-risk job, it's dangerous, correct?
Well, not all the time. It depends on the contracts.
So it's not always a dangerous job.
No, it depends on your client and it depends on the contract and as far as the company, as far as what image you want to pursue, what you try to avoid. I try to avoid any type of high risk contracts for the simple fact is don't want to be in the situation I'm in right now.
Well, can we agree that there's a higher precaution or a higher need for safety as a security guard?
Now these days, yes.
When you say these days, are you talking about the past 10 years, 20 years, what?
You know, I'm talking about now these days that you see, we've had the 9/11 explosion, we've had the terrorist attacks, we've had miscellaneous active shooters and stuff. We had fellow law enforcement officers been shot in a simple protest, stuff like that.
I don't understand what 9/11 has to do with being a security guard, but
and raised up the heightness of security. I mean, it had to do with TSA and everything. That's Texas. That's the Transportation Security Administration. So that's still security.
Okay, so how are you familiar with the Texas Private Security Act?
Been doing security for so long. I've been director of operations and supervisor for companies. We got to learn the in and out. That's what rules and regulates us to be a private security officer.
And so you have read the law?
Well, yes, whenever we went through TCO, read the law, but they didn't harp too much into the security on TCO, but only from what I've known, my previous experience and training that I've had working with some other security companies.
You're talking about TCO. TCO is not connected to Texas Private Security, is it?
Yes, it's in your TCO handbook.
Okay.
But during the academy, they don't harp too much into it because they feel it's more irrelevant to law enforcement. The only thing they actually give you is that anytime any law enforcement or any type of law enforcement agency can make contact with you, has the right to identify who you are and to verify that you are.
Yeah, but when you're a security guard, you don't get the same protections as being a law enforcement officer. Is that correct?
Well, now they're starting to change that with the new rules and stuff. They have a new cause called impersonation of a security officer, which follows under impersonation of a public servant.
Well, there's a reason for the Texas Private Security Act to regulate security guards. Is that correct?
We're regulated through the Texas Department of Public Safety, which is regulated through the Regulatory Service Division, RSD. That's who we answer, and that's who regulates us.
Okay. So let's go back to your time now. Let's go to the incident, or just you're finishing with Delta. Specifically, when did you end your work with Delta Security?
I do not recollect the actual date.
When they Your objection, asked and answered at least 3 times. And he says
didn't give a direct answer each time, Your Honor.
I think his answer is he doesn't recall.
Let's just move on.
Okay. So then can we agree after May 1st, 2017, you were not working for Delta?
After when?
May 1st, 2017.
May 27th?
May 1st. May 1st, 2017.
That I wasn't working for Delta?
That's correct. You were not working for Delta after May 1st, 2017.
No, I was still with Delta. Should have still been with Delta at the time. I'm not sure what date it was, because I know when once we terminated with Delta, we got the new contract with BCFI, and that would have been the starting date of everything once we transferred everything over.
All right, and Your Honor, this has already been admitted, but this is I believe this is Plaintiff Exhibit 3.
You're going to show me the termination letter from Lucio Cano, correct? That is
Yes.
a false document. The termination that was sent to Paisano came from me and Charles Stewart terminating services from Delta. I've never seen that in my entire life. Never received no certified mail or whatsoever.
Okay, so you've never seen that. So you sent a letter yourself to tell Paisanos, is that correct?
Correct. I gave it to Vicky.
We never received that letter that you gave them. Is that the same letter or is it a different letter?
That's a different letterhead.
Who's Jose?
Pamas, has this letter been produced in discovery? You have to unmute.
I have never seen it, and I've never had it in my possession, never knew about it until he told me. In fact, he told me today after Mr. Cano's testimony. Yesterday.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Tovar, who is Jose Cedillo?
He's the other partner, the licensed banker.
And did you inform him that you no longer worked with him at Delta?
Did I inform him?
Yeah.
No, I didn't need to inform him. We terminated service with them. When they told us when I was still employed, they said they didn't want Paisanos no more. So the partners agreed to terminate service with Paisanos. So I took the termination letter, me and Charles Stewart signed, which is the other partner. There's 3 partners in that company. That's why the DBA says 250 LB. 250s, which is standing for 2 police officers, LB for licensed banker. Had they agreed that we were terminating service with Paisanos. I took the termination letter, signed myself and Charles Stewart to terminate service with Delta. And at the time, me and Charles Stewart had an agreement that we needed to bring it up because he wanted to lose the account, because since he was still partner owner, he still had to say so, that we needed to find someone else. And at that time, I brought another contract to Vicky.
Okay, Mr. Tovar. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Let me just ask you. Let me, Your Honor, Mr. Tovar just testified that.
Your Honor, he's interrupting the witness. Witness is testifying.
Well, there's a hostile witness, Your Honor. I mean,
We still can't stop him from testifying because you don't like what you hear.
he's not telling me anything. Sorry.
Okay, well, what did you want to say, Mr. Raphael?
Well, I have a text message from the owner of Delta from May 1st and May 2nd, where Mr. Tovar is confirming his quitting, and that has been produced in discovery. It's just not. Actually, that is on our witness list as well, or our exhibit list 6, text messages. Can I share my screen, Your Honor?
You may.
Mr. Tovar, do you see these text messages? Can you read them? I'll zoom in a little bit. So I'll tell to the court, these are text messages and they've been produced in discovery from Jose Cedillo, one of the owners of Delta Security.
Okay, the text message is correct. There was a discussion we had, correct?
It's okay, don't worry.
It says here, so Charles just told me you and him are leaving DSS and starting new. Is that true? I just want to hear it from you. Is that your response? Yes?
Okay, you're reading it?
Are these message responses from you, Frank?
When people were loyal to me and worked for me, yes. None was this Lucas thing. No one wants to work anymore. Want to know, do you want to drop off the car? You want me to pick it up? Correct. We had the discussion and everything, but that was a delay of time that we didn't actually pursue because we still had to finish out everything.
Okay, but DSS, what is DSS?
Delta Security Solutions.
So when he says you are leaving DSS and starting new, is that true? And you say yes. Is that confirmation that you are no longer with DSS after this?
If that was around that time, then it should have been made, I guess. I mean, like I told you, I don't recollect what date we terminated.
And this is the second part of the text message. It says, good morning, Frank. What time did you want to drop off the car? Now, did DSS give you a vehicle?
Company vehicle, yes. Do sales and for operations.
And again, the date here is still May 1st from the first one, and then it picks up here on May 2nd. So did you return the car on May 1st or May 2nd of 2017?
If that's the date, yes, correct.
Your Honor, I'd like to admit Plaintiff's Exhibit 6, which are text messages between Mr. Tovar and Jose Cedillo.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 6 is admitted.
So then can we agree again that you no longer work for DSS in May of 2017? You are under oath.
If that's the date and time that you have, then that's the date and time. I told you, I don't remember the date and time.
No, you testified that you were still there.
I should have still been there. That's when the time, I was assuming it was still May.
And when did you start working at BCFI?
Once we terminated.
And you don't remember the date of that?
No, I don't remember the date because I gave the new contract to Vicky. Once I gave the letter to Vicky about the termination from Delta, that's when we had signed the new contract with she had signed the new contract with BCFI. And once I received the copy of the contract and everything, gave it back to the office, gave her the copy of the insurance and the license and everything, and continued service. That's it.
And who is Charles Stewart?
He's one of the other owners of Delta, which was a partner with me and him. We're supposed to partner up with Warren Williams on BCFI.
And when did he leave Delta?
I don't know. Technically, he still hadn't left. He's still part owner.
Okay, if I may share my screen, Your Honor. This is the TOPS website, and this is for Charles R. Stewart. Is that the same Charles R. Stewart?
Okay.
And his corporate officer, if I click on that, it says Delta Security Solutions. So that is where he was registered. It says here it expired 02/2018. Okay. Non-commissioned security officer, also not a Delta. And then level 3 training, shareholder.
Correct.
It says termination actually in November. But you're
Correct.
saying he moved on, correct?
No, he's still partner owner company. It is an LLC company. They have board members. He has partner shares still in that company. That right there, someone falsified that to terminate him, which was illegal. That is why he's going through a lawsuit dispute between Luis Volcano and Delta Security Solutions.
It's actually legal to lie under oath, so just be careful. So let me ask you this. If
Your
you-
Honor, I object. I
No,
object.
I'm saying
to
what
this.
they did on
Hold
Tops
hold
was
on.
illegal.
Hey.
Your Honor, I object.
Also
to
stay in
this.
the objection and strike the sidebar.
Thank
Let's
you.
go on.
So let me.
Raphael, do you have anything else?
Yes, Your Honor, I do. I'm trying to get to the moment, but let me show you here. This assumed name records of BCFI. Mr. Tovar, do you recognize this document?
Yes,
Is that an assumed name records for BCFI?
correct,
Okay. And is this your name here, Frank Carlos Andres Tovar?
correct,
And you see also here Charles Stewart. Is that
Correct.
correct? What is the date there? Sorry,
The
here,
date is what? May 3rd, correct?
May 3rd, 2017. Is that correct?
Okay.
But again, we showed earlier at TOPS, you were never registered with BCFI on the TOPS website. Is that correct?
Okay, well, that has nothing to do with me. That's what the admin, like I instructed you. They're the one that I submitted everything like we're supposed to do. They have to acknowledge it on their end, the company.
And also, you gave BCFI a report of the incident that this suit is about. Is that correct?
Correct. I gave it to Vicky.
And did you
I
give it to
typed it
anyone
up
else?
that following night when I got home, and I brought it back the next day and I gave it to Vicky.
You wrote it by hand, or did you write it on a
I
computer?
typed it up.
On a computer?
Yes, it was a
You
computer.
didn't save it?
Did I say what?
The report?
If I had it, I would have brought it. I don't have that computer no more. The hard drive crashed.
Did you email it to anybody?
No, I made a copy and I brought it to Vicky. Printed it out and gave it to Vicky.
If you knew about this lawsuit since February, supposedly, where's the contract that you testified BCFI has with El Paisanos?
Your Honor, I object because he was.
This has already been asked and answered.
The contract with BCFI has not been answered, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
The
I already
lawsuit-
answered that. I told you, I gave the contract to the office, the admin. They have the copy. BSFI is no longer a company. They no longer exist. As far as that, I don't know where it's at. I left BCFI for the simple fact because I thought that DBA was entitled me to be partner owner, which we still had to do the shareholder agreement on TOPS with regulations. We fell out of that, and then we terminated with BCFI. I don't remember the date or time, but that's the reason why I, left everything alone. And that's the reason why the company shut down. But the company was a pre-existing company that was licensed and regulated in the state of Texas, and we had a license and insurance bonded for the company. That is the uniform that I'm wearing, and that's the uniform I wear whenever I'm working. That's the uniform I'm authorized.
Okay.
As you can see, through the Commission Security Act, there is no policy or law where it doesn't allow us not to work more than one company. I have several other companies that you can see on my licenses that I am not terminated because I'm still active with them to where
All
I
right,
do.
we're going to talk
other-
about the situation, and we'll talk about your shirt. But let's talk about the incident.
Okay.
When did you first see Miss Elizabeth Martinez?
That night, when the date you gave me.
So the night of the incident, August 18, 2017, at what point in the night did you see her?
When the incident happened, when I got called to the register.
And I think you testified you tried to handle the ticket, correct?
I tried to handle the situation, de-escalate the situation, correct?
The cashier asked you what they should do?
No, I asked Daniela what to do. What did she want to do?
I'm sorry, I believe you testified, and we can get in the record, but I think you said something along the lines of you asked her to handle the check.
Who to handle the check?
You told the cashier to handle it to de-escalate. Is that not correct?
I asked them what did they want to do after they were already trying to sort the situation. After I found out what it was going on.
After you found out what was going on, you asked her what you should do, or did she ask you what she should do? I'm confused.
You're confusing me now. Okay, I've already said it before. You're confusing me. This is how it went. I got flagged down. One of the waitresses came and got me. I went to the register to see what was going on. As I saw, like I told you, Miss Martinez and the other female, they're being irate, belligerent, this and that. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I say, hey, what's going on? So then Daniela tells me what's going on. I tell them, okay, we'll call the waitress so we figure out what's going on in the dispute. At that time, they became more irate and belligerent and stuff like that. So I said, you know what? Okay, fine. What do you want to do? When I said all that, that's when other words were exchanged.
Mr. Tovar, who did you ask that to?
I just said Daniela.
Okay. So you called over the waitress?
I called over the waitress that was dealing with their table.
You were dealing with their table, or the waitress was dealing with the
Oh,
table?
Lord Jesus.
The reason I ask is, are you a manager of the staff?
Are you trying to test my intelligence here? I've already explained this situation several times,
No,
sir.
I'm not trying to test your intelligence, but here's the problem.
I'm not a hostess. I'm not a waitress, anything. My job was to de-escalate the situation, find the best solution to make sure everybody's ensure their safety and well-being.
Okay. So that was your job. So you were trying to just de-escalate. That's the only reason you called over the
Correct.
wait. But were you on a first name basis with the waitresses at the time?
Sometimes I knew who they were. Sometimes I didn't know who they were. The main person that I needed to know was who the shift manager was for that night.
Why did you need to know who the shift manager was?
That way, if any altercations or something happened, that way I can inform them what was going on. So that way they can pass it down, whoever they needed to pass down or whatever needed to be, whatever actions they needed to take.
During Mr. Payman's questioning, you testified that you told Daniela to take it off the bill. Did you not?
I asked her, go ahead and take it off the bill so that way we can go ahead and get them out of the way. Yes, so we can get them out of here.
Are you a manager of the restaurant that you can change what's on people's bills?
No, but to ensure the safety and the well-being of my patrons and the staff, that would have been the best solvable solution to de-escalate the situation, right?
You take your advice?
Right? I mean, wouldn't you want to, I'm on to de-escalate the situation. We're arguing about a bill. So what's the best way? Eliminate the situation.
It's logical. What you're saying is logical.
Go ahead and take it off. We'll be all right.
That is logical. The customer's right? It's $2.50. So here's what I asked. You also testified that you saw Miss Martinez jumped on the counter, right?
Yes.
Were both feet on the counter?
Whose counter?
Was she fully on the counter, both feet up on it?
Yes.
Miss Martinez.
Yes, she jumped over. Yes.
Did you not hear Mr. Shalaki's wonderful opening where he discussed her broken hip from a year or less than a year earlier?
Okay, that has nothing to do with her actions, what she did to jump over the counter to try to assault my shift manager.
So she got up on the counter.
Correct.
On her own.
Correct.
Mr. Tovar, are you saying that she's standing on top of the counter, like literally on top of the
she like leaped over the counter like to try to grab her.
So
like
her feet were not on top of the counter.
Her feet like lifted off from the ground, Your Honor.
Okay.
It's a high counter, like a registered counter. She jumped over to grab her.
I can clarify, but still, so you're saying she jumped, did she get pretty far over?
No, because I stopped her.
Oh, you stopped her. So that's when you put both hands on her for the first time, correct?
Correct.
And then you put her down on her feet?
Yes, and then I escorted her out.
And you asked her out, be doing that hand motion or the hand grab that you demonstrated on Mr. Shalaki, correct?
Which was impossible because there was a lot of patrons there still eating. The tables are so close to the counter, so I had to squeeze through. So I had to ease her out, like I demonstrated earlier.
I understand. So you had to ease her out after she jumped on the counter, even though she had a broken hip 9 months earlier.
You're gonna object to him.
I was unaware of all this. You're telling me until
You
now.
watched the testimony. So
Yeah,
you
Your Honor.
heard.
Mr. Payman, your objection's overruled. Mr. Raphael, you can answer. Or you can ask.
Yeah, I said, I mean, you heard all the testimony, right? Did you hear the
Right.
testimony of Ms. Martinez?
Right. But like I said, I'm not a psychic. I did not know she was in any type of capacity whatsoever. I was there to do my job, and I believe I did my job well sufficient.
Prior to the incident at the cash register, Miss Martinez and her two daughters, were they rowdy at their table?
Were they what?
Rowdy or loud at their table?
No, I told you I never knew them. I don't know who they were until the incident happened at the register with the shift manager.
And you also testified that you would go around the restaurant sometimes when people were being loud and tell them to quiet down, right?
Correct.
But you were not a manager of the restaurant.
To tell people to be quiet, you need to be a manager? Is that what you're saying?
You need to work there, I would assume. Is that in your, is that in your?
Why would that not be any type of safety issue to make sure there's no high altercation or any fights or any type of escalation?
I mean,
Just
I'm a
like when
loud
you get
guy.
when you get an
Can I speak to the
altercation,
fans? We're
when
loud.
you get an
we're just-
altercation, some people
Guys,
want to.
Mr. Raphael, you're talking over him.
When people get an altercation, when you're trying to go on a one-on-one, when people are already upset and everything, they want to go in a high octave. So you want to de-escalate the situation. You want to talk to them in a normal, calm voice. So if I hear people yelling, why would I, hey, do me a favor, can you do me a favor, folks? Hey, I'm not trying to say y'all being too loud, but just tone it down a little bit, please. Thank you.
Understood. So let me just clarify, because you heard that Ms. Martinez, her two daughters, testify. They were there at the restaurant for about an hour and a half, 2 hours prior to the incident. They were not rowdy or loud at all.
Well, they were eating. I wasn't paying attention to them. I'm only paying attention to the outside line and control the egress and everything from everybody, the traffic flow.
And who specifically called you over to the register?
One of the waitresses came and got me, came outside and came and got me.
And you said it was Daniela Artica at the register?
Daniela Ortega was a shift manager. She was the one at the register. I guess she sent one of the waitresses. I don't remember which waitress she sent, but they said, hey, Frank, they need you inside.
Did Daniela agree to take off the tortillas from the bill?
I don't remember. After all that, there was some, like I said, there was words exchanged, and then that's when Ms. Martinez jumped over the counter, and that's when the whole situation was already done. At that time, there was no regards. The bill needed to be taken care of. I needed to get them vacated from the premises. Make sure there was no other altercations or anything that needed to escalate.
And you had no other options of talking to her at the time?
To who?
Ms. Martinez.
I did talk to her. I talked to her when I got to the register to figure out what was going on.
You know, when you're saying she jumped onto the counter, you had no other options to de-escalate the situation?
No, it was time for her to go ahead and go, just like anybody else. Why would I keep them there if they're already trying to jump over the counter to where it's endangering the safety of patrons and my shift manager?
And the cashier or Ms. Artica didn't tell you anything to get them out of there or make a hand movement?
If she did, I don't know. What I'm training, what I'm to do, de-escalate situation is you need to get that situation, make a solvable solution out of the way. And that was the best solvable solution, was to go ahead and get them to vacate the premises.
So your training kicked in when you saw Ms. Martinez.
Correct.
Was she a threat?
I saw no threat, just saw there was an altercation, and it was just a verbal altercation. It was just some cuss words and this and that, and it was some type of racial tension from what I saw, and I was, okay, that's it. You know, let me go ahead and get them out of the way, and I get back to my job. Was never.
So you didn't ask her to walk out of the restaurant before that?
Did I tell her to walk out of the restaurant?
You didn't ask her to walk out prior to this, correct?
No, I never knew she existed. I didn't know who she was.
No, what I mean is at the cashier, when this supposed situation was going down, did you ask her to leave?
I said, ma'am, y'all go ahead and go. I said, this is done. The conversation's done. Let's go. Y'all gonna need to go ahead and go. Y'all done for the night. Go ahead and go.
I thought you were handling the check.
Handling what? What are you talking about?
The payment.
You're
I thought
confusing me.
you told Ms. Artica to remove it, but then you were saying you had to go. Which one is it?
You just said that she jumped over the counter. That's when I engaged with her, and that's when I escorted her off.
And what racial tensions? What racial tensions are you talking about?
When someone said bitch, which I think was Miss Martinez said bitch, and then or somebody said something. There was another word that Daniela said. I think it was because she was trying to talk to me in Spanish. Daniela was trying to tell me something in Spanish, and I think Miss Martinez took it the wrong way. She said bitch to Daniela, and that's when all the commotion happened. And that's when Martinez jumped over, whatever. And then she goes, this is America, bitch, and this and that. And that's what they were telling Daniela. So at that time, it raised, too much concern, and it was too much of a safety liability. I said, okay, y'all need to go ahead and go. Let me go ahead and get it out, go for the day. That's it. They're done for the night.
This is America. And so when you were pushing her out by the arm, were you pulling her by the arm or pushing her? I still don't, help me there.
I said I was easing her.
You were easing her. And you said you had your duty belt. Is that right?
Correct.
And what was on your duty belt?
Full duty belt consists of handcuffs, baton, sidearm, pepper spray, and my flashlight, and my radio if I have my radio.
You had your gun on you.
Yes.
And while you were easing her out of the restaurant, what were you saying to her?
I didn't say much. I said, ladies, I need to go ahead and go. Come on, let me go ahead and get y'all go outside. We'll talk about this outside. Let me get y'all talk outside.
You know how tall Miss Martinez is?
I'm aware how tall she is.
How tall is she?
No, I said I'm unaware. I don't know how tall she is.
She's 5 feet tall.
Okay.
Did you feel that she was a danger to you?
There was no danger. She was compliant at that time to go ahead and walk until everything changed, pulled a full 360. When you deal with people that are intoxicated, their mood levels change just in a split second.
How do you know she was intoxicated?
Well, like I said, I smelled the odor of alcohol emitting from her body. And 9 times out of 10, that's who I'm dealing with are intoxicated people.
Did you give her a breathalyzer test?
No, I said I smelled alcohol emitting from her body.
From her, but
mouth.
you said the restaurant was very crowded. You had to kind of squeeze between people, right?
Correct.
You know, as a former Marine, do you think Ms. Martinez was a threat, a physical threat to you?
No, there was no threat.
Did you think she knew hand-to-hand combat?
You don't know who knows anything. Do you know if anybody's carrying a gun these days? You never know.
Well, the reason I ask is because
that's a rhetorical question.
Well, when Mr. Paymo was asking you questions, you mentioned, you know, being a UFC fighter, doing an arm bar.
No, I said that she demonstrated a move like you would see in UFC when they're trying to get out of a arm bar.
A 5 foot tall grandma
It does not matter when person's under the influence, especially someone's under the influence. It could be narcotics, alcohol, whatsoever. Their mood levels, just like an Incredible Hulk juice.
Now, again, did you hear the testimony of Ms. Martinez for the past 2 days?
Yes, I did.
So as Mr. Payma read in the record, you do realize less than a year prior, she had a brain injury and a broken pelvis.
Correct.
Even with that, you think she was moving like a UFC fighter?
She was grabbing my nuts and she was squirming and fighting and trying to bite me. So at what point she's trying to resist from going into handcuffs? She was resisting. So at what point would you can say a UFC fighter?
At what point?
It was just an example.
What point were you putting her in handcuffs?
At the point where she tried to swing at me.
And this was outside the restaurant.
Correct.
So inside the restaurant, she didn't try to grab your nuts.
That what?
You didn't try to grab your nuts in the restaurant?
No, I never said she tried to grab my nuts in the restaurant. I said she grabbed my nuts outside.
Well, you later said that people in the restaurant was like, she tried to grab your nuts. So which one is it?
That was after the fact. People were cheering and crying. Yeah. Ms. Orr, you're trying to flip my words. I already explained to you what happened. I told you she grabbed my nuts outside. The people were cheering and telling me they couldn't believe that she tried to grab my nuts. The patrons, the people that were in line.
You know, Mr. Tovar, the reason I'm taking this tone with you is she's a woman. She's a grandmother. You attacked a woman. Have you done that before?
I can't clarify or justify that I attacked a woman. I attacked a person that was under the influence, which was trying to commit assault towards me.
Have you ever had to do that to another woman before?
Woman or man, doesn't matter.
You're not answering my question. Have you ever had to take down a woman?
Yes.
A woman
Yes.
of her stature?
Yes, an intoxicated female.
You've had to body slam a intoxicated
No, I never body slammed her. Never body slammed her. The same technique I demonstrated, the defensive tactic of arm barring her, is the same tactic that I use majority all the time.
So how did she get to the ground?
As I said before, I did use the defensive tactic where I arm barred her, bringing her down to the ground.
Your Honor, I'd like to share my screen.
Okay.
Let's take a look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 2. Have you seen this video, Mr. Tovar?
Yes, I have.
Who showed you this video?
From the testimony that I've seen from the deposition, what we've been doing, the trial.
And is this you standing behind to the left here? On
Right
your phone?
there, that is me, correct. Yes, that is me right there.
Pad?
They attacked her and they broke her arm again. She has a broken.
And I want to get to this video, but I just have to ask you some questions. How did she get on the ground again?
Your Honor, how many times are we going to do this? I just ask for the same courtesy when I go back over the stuff for the 4th or the 5th time.
Your Honor, Mr. Payma asked the same question 20 times to a woman with a brain injury. I'm asking the same question twice because he didn't give a clear answer the first time.
Yes, I did. I explained my story already 3 or 4 times.
And you fell down with her at the same
to the
time.
ground by the defensive tactic I used, I told you, was the arm bar. She was on the ground, which I was trying to place her in custody with one handcuff to where she became combative. Everything where she, like I told you, the move she did was like almost what you would see in UFC. She squirmed, she started kicking my knees and started fighting. And then she started, when I tried to grab the second hand to place her in handcuff, that's when she attempted to bite me on my arm. And then she grabbed my testicles 2 to 3 times, squeezing them real hard. I told her to stop. And at that time, she didn't comply. I administered pepper spray. That's when she's placed in handcuffs. At that time, everybody knows when someone gets arrested, they normally go behind the back. But the daughter's like, oh, you're breaking her arm. She's already had surgery problem, this and that. So I took that in consideration. That's why she's handcuffed in the front.
So she
Normal
was
procedure
face down
protocol, we do not handcuff in the front.
Did she fall face down or on her back?
Who fall?
Miss Martinez. When
She
you
never
guys
fell.
went down,
I went down with her. She did not fall. I was assisting her as she was going down. She never fell. I didn't throw her, didn't body slam her. I arm barred her down.
now when you arm barred her down, was she going face down or on her back?
Face down.
So she was face down. So while you had her in an arm bar, face down, she managed to reach your testicles, bite you and scratch you at the same time?
After I put the handcuff, once I released from the arm bar, I was placing the handcuff on her. That's when she started fighting. Once I had put the one handcuff on her, is when she started fighting.
I mean, look at this. Does this look like the person who's doing all these dangerous things to you? How did she end up like this?
That's from all the water, from the decontamination from the pepper spray.
The water put her in handcuffs down on the ground. Mr. Tovar, you weigh 260 pounds.
Okay.
How did she end up on the ground, passed out?
She was not. She was conscious until she saw the EMS, is what I had stated before. She even got up to be escorted to the ambulance, like I said before. Mr. Orr, you're trying to change my words here, sir.
She was just sitting there in handcuffs by herself, waiting for them, totally fine. And then when they showed up,
she was perfectly conscious. And as you can see further in the video, you see the EMS goes and tell her, squeeze her hand. And she squeezed her hand. That means she is conscious, not unconscious.
So you testified to Mr. Payma that you saw her squeeze the hand when she was on the gurney getting into the ambulance.
No, I said she was squeezing the hand when she was right there in that video. I said right there on the ground, they came to her. I said that I visually witnessed when I took the handcuffs off, they were escorting her to the ambulance, which they pulled the gurney on the outside of the box truck, sat her in there, and then lifted her up. But she walked towards the ambulance. That's what I said.
So we'll get to that. But I mean, you did the arm bar. She was grabbing your testicles with the other arm and biting and scratching all with one arm. What I still don't get, when did you pepper spray her? Was that also in the same movement?
Ms. Orr, would you like me to demonstrate the full move? If I could have Mr. Schlocke show me, so I can show you again, because you're trying to twist my words here, sir.
You don't need to demonstrate.
Your Honor, he's trying to twist my words. I have no problem demonstrating it again, so that we can get a clarification, Your Honor.
I get what happened. I mean, you can keep going over it. I know what his story is. I know what her story is. I just have to judge credibility, but you can keep asking them questions.
Let me just ask you this, Mr. Tovar. You got a mother. How'd you feel if this was your mother and saw this video?
First of all, my mother would have never got that heavily intoxicated to where she would have caused an altercation.
So you knew how intoxicated she was right before this?
I knew she was intoxicated for the simple fact is that I smelled the odor of alcohol emitting from her.
You smelled the odor. How much did you weigh at the time? Were you also 260 then?
No, I was not 260. That's my bulletproof vest that I'm wearing.
You were wearing a bulletproof vest.
Correct.
And where did she scratch you?
She scratched me on my right arm.
And you made a report, you testified earlier. Did you take photos of these injuries?
No, because I never pressed charges. DPD would have took the photos. It would have called their camera evidence or crime scene, whatever, to take photos if we were pressing charges.
Why didn't DPD take photos of her then, if they made a report?
Like I said before, when DPD arrived, the ambulance was already gone.
And so DPD spoke to you, is that correct?
And they tried to speak to her daughters, and they became combative and belligerent towards them, started cussing at the officer. The officer said, fine then, I'm not helping y'all since y'all don't want to listen. But I gave all my vital information to the DPD officer where he ran my check to verify it was legal and everything. And then wrote my information, which they said on your just testimonies that they lied, I never gave him my information. That is a lie. The officer wrote on his notepad my information, Officer Obregon's information, and my contact information and the company we worked for, and handed them the notepad piece of paper.
Yeah, we'll get to that then in a second also. But you said Officer Obregon.
Yes.
Is that who's in this photo here?
Yes, Anna Obregon. Yes.
And she worked with you. Where is this? Is this your logo here? What's
Yes.
this logo state on this photo?
That's BCFI, Bureau of Crime Force Investigators.
Was that where she worked at the time?
Yes.
Okay,
Let's do this. Let's take a quick 10-minute break and we'll reconvene at 4 o'clock.
Okay, I was in the zone, Your Honor. Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's get started again, guys.
Sorry, I had to run to the restroom.
All right.
I had a lot of coffee, Your Honor, if you couldn't tell.
Okay.
Your Honor, can I go and tell my staff to get Mr. Tovar logged in real quick? Just
Yes.
30 seconds.
Your Honor, you think this will become the norm? Zoom bench trials after this?
I don't know. I mean, it could be. I think it's going to be probably just what the judge and the attorneys want. We did our first remote jury trial and it went relatively well, but I don't think that'll be the new standard after whenever we're back to normal. If that
They did
happens.
voir dire. I watched portions of it, but did they do voir dire with everybody on there? Do you have to do 20 of them?
It was hard to tell on YouTube, but we actually did voir dire with all 45 jurors.
Wow.
And it worked well. We had them all numbered with their names and everything. It was, I thought it went really well.
I'm back, Your Honor.
All right, let's get started.
Okay, Mr. Tovar.
Yes, sir.
We had the video open and I was asking you some questions on it.
Okay.
Yeah, just shared my screen too much, right? There. Okay. So you were talking about the wristband being removed, or the handcuffs being removed, right?
Correct.
And you said you were told to do it by the EMS.
Correct.
But in this video, you and the EMS aren't talking, are you?
We had talked earlier when he got there. The black male EMT right there was the EMT supervisor. Me and him got in a piss match contest.
So that's you removing her hand. And did her arms go limp when you removed them?
No, because you can see right there, she moved her hand down right there before you paused.
Oh, that was her who did it, not gravity. Last question. Where's the Kahlua wristband that you're talking about?
I don't know, probably got lost during the incident or whatsoever, probably fell off. I don't know.
Because I know the judge has probably heard enough of it, but I do have one last question of this takedown. If you want to
Show me the video again. I couldn't tell if there was a wristband or not. Let me take a look. Where would the wristband have been, Mr. Tovar?
It might have been on when I applied the first handcuff, Your Honor. It might have just got lost in the scuffle.
Okay.
It's just a piece of paper that's wrapped around. That's all it is. It's a high color contrast and it says Kahlua on there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, well, Your Honor, as we can see in the video, there's no wristband.
Yeah, I don't see one either.
So you were taking her down. You said you had the arm bar on her left arm, right? Is that I'm correct? Not right, but you were
Yes.
holding her left arm,
Yes.
and you were to the left of her doing the arm bar.
No, I was facing forward when she turned around where she attempted to strike me.
So how, if she was facing you, how
Correct.
did you go down in the arm bar?
As she was swinging, I moved away, grabbed her wrist, do a wrist lock, arm barred her down. Then at the time I was trying to place her in the handcuff on that left arm.
When you were holding her arm, what side of her body were you on?
What do you mean?
You had
I'm sorry,
her
I'm getting
left
confused.
You said you were falling down, still holding on to her arm, correct?
I was falling down with her. I'm falling down with her. I had to go down with her because I'm performing a defensive tactic. I can't just let go and let her fall and hurt herself.
What arm were you holding on to her? You only had one arm, you said.
Left.
So you were on the left side of her body, putting her down, correct?
Okay, when you say yeah, well, actually, yeah, it'll be oblique. I'll be oblique to her body because I'm coming in this way. I was behind her. At that
So-
time this happened, I'm behind her.
And she could reach back with her right arm as you were falling down and grabbing.
No, that's not when it happened. Like I said, once I placed handcuffs on her, the first handcuff, I was attempting to grab the other hand. And then that's when the fight went on. And that's when she started doing the squirm move, like you see in UFC, where they try to get away from each other when they're pinned down, is what she did. She started kicking me, started swarming like a snake and stuff like that. That's when it became where she was doing that. And then when I tried to grab the second arm, she bit me. And then that's when she let go. And then she grabbed my testicle 2 to 3 times, squeezing them. I told her, let go, let go. I'm sorry, what?
While you were laying on the ground or standing up? I still don't get it.
What do you mean laying on the ground or standing up? What are you talking about?
He was grabbing your testicles when you were standing up or laying down?
Who? Me or her?
The UFC fighter.
No, I said she was on the ground squirming, kicking my knees with her feet.
So you were standing over her body and that's what she was doing it?
No, standing her to get the second handcuff on her.
I thought you fell down together. This makes no sense.
Really? I just said I armbarred her down, applying the first handcuff, trying to grab the second handcuff. When she started squirming, and that's when she started kicking me, I'm trying to grab the other one. That means I'm probably gonna have to lift up to try to grab it because I can't just stay there the whole time on my knees trying to grab the other arm. Then that will put me on her body. And I'm not on her body. Huh? I'm sorry, what?
She was face down. You testified that she was face down.
Your Honor, can I show him the example again? Because he's confusing me, Your Honor. I apologize.
Let me show you this photo that's already been entered into evidence. Again, this is a photo of you and Miss Obregon. Did you change clothes after the fight?
No.
Did you change pants?
No.
Because your shirt and pants don't look very wrinkled from such a scuffle.
Well, they were high starched and they're 5'11s and they're made to deal with abrupt terrain.
I mean, have you ever had somebody attack your testicles like that before?
I've gotten kicked in the balls and I've had somebody attack my testicle before, yes.
Yeah, I've had that. It hurts.
Oh, it does.
You seem very calm, not like you went through such a traumatic experience there.
My training and my experience, I've dealt with it, and I felt the sensation you get in your stomach. Like, oh, but I'm dealing with the situation. I have to stay calm. Got to stay vigilant. So I have to perform my duty like I needed to, and I needed to control the whole situation before it got out of hand. So I had to control it. So that was the only way I had to do was go try to put the other handcuff to control it. Once I had her in custody, there was no more force needed to be used.
And I think this should be the last question on custody, but she's face down on the ground and you pepper sprayed her back, or did you roll her over and then pepper spray her?
No, what happened was as I'm arm barring her down, I have her down. I'm squirmed down right here, literally, okay? She's laying flat down. I pull my handcuff. I have one handcuff in the front. I always have one handcuff in the back, just due for situations like that. Pull my handcuff out, apply one handcuff on, apply it with my hand on the wrist lock, apply it like we're properly trained. As I put that one handcuff, she tries to squirm out of the handcuff. That's when she turns around, squirms, trying to get out. She starts kicking me and everything where she was trying to get up. As she was trying to get up, I'm trying to grab the other second arm. That's when I was grabbing her second arm to place her in custody. She bit my arm. Okay. Then once I got away from her, from biting my arm and snipping her nails and scratching, that's when she grabs my testicles 2-3 times. And then at that time, I said, you need to let go, let go, let go. I went, like that. I said, shit. So then she grabbed them, squeezed them, whatever. And then I told her, ma'am, they let go. I'm gonna have to pepper spray them, like pepper spray. And I said, spray, spray, spray. And I sprayed her. You comply, and that's when I administered pepper spray.
So you pepper sprayed right
once the pepper spray was just applied, I placed her in handcuffs. When I was about to put her hand behind the back, that's when her daughters, whatever, were yelling, oh, you're gonna break her arm. She's already had surgery on that arm or whatever. I took that in consideration. I handcuffed her in front. That's not our normal protocol because we're normally supposed to place them in the back. But consideration for the simple fact of that, I put them in the front.
You're a security guard. Why are you trying to arrest her?
For public intoxication and disorderly conduct.
Are you a police officer?
Under statutes of 1702 and our regulatory subdivision on the Private Security Bureau, we have the authority and the powers of arrest to arrest for theft, any felony, disorderly conduct, or public intoxication to where it endangers the safety of others.
Okay, so you had one hand of hers in a handcuff and then you pepper sprayed her.
Correct.
So you pepper sprayed her right in her face.
No, I was about 6 to 8 inches away from her.
You pepper sprayed her 6 inches from her face.
Well, like that. I mean,
That's how long.
I didn't have a ruler. I can't determine exactly how far I was because I was right there. I got backlash, so I felt the pepper spray too.
And then but you still have the ability to pepper spray your daughters also?
That had been from the backlash if they got pepper spray. But if they got pepper sprayed, they would have been treated with a decontamination the way I helped Ms. Martinez by giving the bottle of water. The daughters did not assist their mother with a decontamination. I did. I told them to get the bottles of water to decontaminate, which is our normal procedure protocol for decontaminating pepper spray.
Who did you get the water from?
From the waitresses.
Okay, because you have to understand, you're the only witness that El Paisanos has brought forward about what happened. Supposedly no waitresses saw anything. Is that correct?
They don't know what's going on. Everybody was staying inside. Normally we'll have cameras, we'll have everybody outside if it's inside. You know, it would have been viral. It would have probably been another video on YouTube like the major incident they had.
I thought you said the outside was packed with lines of people.
I'm sorry, what?
There were lines of people outside, yes or no?
Yes, they were on the other side.
Were there security cameras?
Were there what?
Security cameras?
From my knowledge, there was. I don't know if they were working or not.
And you testified earlier about having to take down other women. How many of these women have you hospitalized other than my client?
Excuse me?
How many of these women that you had to take down went to the hospital?
Who went to the hospital?
The women that you said you had to take down or detain previous to my client.
That never went to that far point because they got arrested for public intoxication or for disorderly conduct. They've always pressed charges for the simple fact because it was something major, something serious. I just didn't feel the need to press charges on your client for the simple fact was I still had all these other patrons and it was still in pursuing my duties to where if I had done that and I had to take time to fill the report and everything, it was going to take away time for me from watching the other business because we were during the rush hour.
Okay, so what you just said, so Ms. Martinez is the only woman you've sent to the hospital while detaining. Is that correct?
Anytime anybody gets pepper sprayed, they normally go to the hospital.
Objection, Judge. Is argumentative, and the only woman you sent to the hospital, he didn't send her to the hospital. Mrs. Martinez asked to be taken to the hospital.
He's testifying. He just said she's the only woman that went to the hospital after he detained her. Is that correct? Yes or no?
No, that's not what I said. I said anybody that gets pepper sprayed, majority of the time goes to the hospital.
How many women have you pepper sprayed?
I don't know. I mean, it's not like it's an everyday thing. I mean, if an incident happens, it has to be a female, it has to be a male. I mean, it could be anything.
I asked you how many females.
It's not often. So I would say maybe 1, 2, maybe, I don't know. It's not like an everyday thing.
But then you said public intoxication. You always press charges when you detain someone who's publicly intoxicated?
You misconstrued my words. I said majority of the time when I'm dealing with incidents like that to where it becomes where they fight or whatever, then I will press the charges. And 9 times out of 10, they'll go to jail for public intoxication.
But this time was the only time you didn't press charges?
Correct.
Do you usually take photos and videos of these incidents?
Yes.
But this was the only time you didn't?
I felt it was necessary not to do anything for the fact because I had all these patrons here. I had to use better judgment. I didn't have time to deviate from one thing to another. I had to concentrate, de-escalate the situation, get it out of the way. EMS already had took over, and it was just already too much of a headache already dealing with it. So I just left it alone, which I felt was okay. Just leave it alone, move on about my business, and finish out my job. That's it.
And you wrote your report the next day, correct?
Correct.
And you gave that report to El Paisanos, correct?
To Vicky, correct. Which is standard for any type of use of force. If we use baton, taser, pepper spray, anything that's not lethal, whatsoever, we have to fill out a use of force report.
Do you know when Vicky left El Paisanos?
No.
She left in, I believe, Mr. Payman, if you want to correct me, April of 2018, is that correct? Are you aware of that she left in April of 2018, Mr. Tovar?
I knew she had left, but I never knew the circumstances. I just knew there were some changes because that's when I barely met. When I found out that she was not the owner, that's when I found out Miss Griselda was the actual owner or president, whatever it is, of the company.
Okay, we'll get to that. Let me ask you another question here. You said you were with Miss Anna Obregon, Officer Obregon, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
And who is Miss Obregon?
She was my officer partner for that night.
Did you find Miss Obregon, or who brought her on?
The company acquired her.
So was she reporting to you?
Yes, because I was supervisor. Correct.
So you were supervising Miss Obregon.
Well, I supervised many officers. It wasn't just me always working there. We had other officers working there.
All right, let me share my screen, Your Honor.
And we also had also several off-duty police officers also.
This is the TOPS website, and this is Anna Letitia Obregon.
Okay.
Is that correct? Is that the name you see, Mr. Tovar?
Yeah, I don't know if that's her middle name, but yes.
And does it say here commissioned security officer?
Correct.
And what is a commissioned security officer?
Level 3.
And can you tell me when her commissioned security officer was issued her license?
October 13, 2017.
And when did the incident occur?
You said in August something, correct?
2017, correct.
Okay.
And here is her affiliation. It says here, Bureau of Crime Force investigators did report her as affiliated with them. But can you tell me next to Bureau of Crime Force, what date was she hired?
And it shows 8/30/2017.
Okay, so she was hired, but she was hired after the incident that brings us here today, right?
That's what it shows, yes. Like I told you before, I have no control of that. That's BCFI's office. That's the admin that takes care of that. They take care of the hiring and all that.
And that's the company you were working under that day, correct?
Correct.
But you were not registered to them. Is that correct?
From my understanding, I gave my application, I gave my credentials and everything. I submitted my stuff through TOPS, which they were supposed to acknowledge on the other side, like I said before. That's on them. That leads on them after that. The state deals with them on that. As long as I did my diligence, I'm good. And I did my diligence. I sent my stuff and my information in.
But so why then did El Paisano pay you, Frank Carlos Tovar, directly?
As I said before, when we had the DBA, and I told you, Mr. Stewart, he had a personal illness. So I had to oversee everything to where I was taking the checks to take care of the payroll for the officers for BCFI, which I cashed at the PLS. And then I dropped the money off at the office to where they needed to pay the officers however they needed to pay them, however.
And did you inform Mr. Pema or El Paisanos about this?
About what?
About your agreements with BCFI?
Yeah, I told them that it was yesterday or whatever. One of the time we had to talk about this whole trial thing.
Told them about it yesterday?
It was yesterday.
If I may share my screen, Your Honor. This is part of Exhibit 5 that's been admitted. These are some checks from El Paisano that have been admitted.
Correct.
And, is that your name, Frank Carlos Tovar?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is from November of 2017, but is this to whose signature is this here? Do you see that?
That's their seal.
You know whose signature that is?
No, that's the Paisano seal. I don't know who the actual signature is. I just know that's a seal. That's their, I guess, their stamp or whatever you want to call it.
Well, earlier, Diana Murillo testified that that's the signature of Griselda Ramirez.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't hear that part.
So there's a lot of checks here.
Correct.
And you were paid every week by El Paisanos directly, correct?
Correct.
And this whole time you were with BCFI?
Correct.
And you finished working with El Paisano in December. This is the last check we were given, but December 7th, 2018. Is that correct?
Okay. Yes, sir. If that's what it shows, yeah.
And no time they ever talked to you about this incident while you were there?
Who? Anybody
from El Paisano?
No, I mean, I show up and work because I didn't associate with them. You know, I just had the friendly report when I worked, and that was it. I showed up, notified the shift manager we're here. Did anything, let us know. We go get a little drink, water, soda, whatever, and then conduct our business.
Okay. Also, when the police officers arrived, did you know them?
Which police officers?
The police officers arrived that evening for this incident. Did you know?
Oh, the incident, correct. Do I know who? No, I'm saying correct. I understand you saying police officer. That's what I'm saying. Did I know those police officers or what police officer are you talking about?
The ones who arrived the evening of this incident.
No, I never know. I didn't know that.
Never met them before?
No.
Did the
If I
police-
have, it's probably from previous incidents we've had. If we had any other incidents at time, or if we had any trespassers, I mean, probably sometimes it'd be the same responding officer. But I mean, it's not like, oh, hey, I shoot the shit with them or anything like that.
So, but these, as you just testified, so you're saying the police have arrived on previous occasions to help Paisanos while you're working security?
While I work there, or
Yes.
when there are any other officers, I mean, it happens. I mean, sometimes you'll have some drunk person, they'll have an accident in the middle of the street, or one of the homeless guys are panhandling or something like that, you know, stuff like that. Sometimes 9 times out of 10, that was because the inside called them before we even got there. So there'll be times when I get there to work and there'll be like police there and I'm like, oh crap, what's going on? You know, they're like, oh no, this guy was panhandling or he was trying to bug patrons or something. I said, okay, cool, let me go talk to him. Hey, you gotta go, brother.
So when the police officers arrived, you didn't want to press criminal charges against Miss Martinez, what you're testifying.
Yeah, the deputy officer asked me, did I want to press charges?
Did you inform the police officer that you were working as a security guard without a license at the time?
No, I gave him my security license. As I've shown you, I've been certified and licensed through all my years. There's never been no time where I've not been licensed. I've always been carried through a company and everything's legal.
Well, it doesn't say that in the report that he ran your license.
Okay, well, that's what DPD. I don't know what their procedure and protocol would be. My experience and training I've had with local law enforcement, anytime we interact when we're doing security, they get your credentials. I show them my driver's license, my commission license, they run checks, they go back to the car, run checks, and then that's it. That's all I know. He says, okay, here you go, or he let you know, hey, you got a warrant out, or hey, you know, what company you with? It's not showing, this and that, they bring it up to our attention. But like I told you, in the police academy, that was one thing why I had a benefit of being law enforcement and security is what I saw both sides. And honestly, tell you the truth, a lot of law enforcement officers, they do not harp so much of knowing the ins and out, in the security industry. That's why we're regulated by the Department of Public Safety. 9 times out of 10, when we had our interactions, it's with state troopers or the private security investigator.
Did you tell them that Anna Obregon was not licensed?
No, she was licensed because we gave our credentials to him. She was standing there with me. We gave our credentials to him.
Well, we looked up the TOPS website. It shows she wasn't licensed.
Like I said before, that's through BCFI. What their admin did or whatever, I mean, they, you know, that's the problem we have in the security industry is that when we try to submit everything or put everything right, you got to understand the security bureau. If you go to Austin, it's a small office like I'm in. There's like 2 or 3, 4 chairs. There's maybe one person at the desk that's got to deal with thousands of security licenses, thousands of security companies. There's an average between, last statistics was showing between an average between 800 to 1,800 people trying to get certified in the security industry. You imagine that one person trying to certify everybody or go through all the paperwork. It's ridiculous. Our system is behind that. I'm sorry, what was that?
Did you provide training to her?
To who?
Anna Obregon?
Yes. The training that she received through the state, the 40-hour mandate for level 3 commission is what she already knew. I provided the on-the-job training. That's what we always do when it comes to a post or whatever site we're working at.
Okay. All right, well, let's talk about the Private Security Act, because you just mentioned that. So you testified earlier, you are familiar with the Texas Occupations Code, Chapter 1702?
Correct.
Okay. I may share my screen, Your Honor. This is the Texas Occupation Code, Chapter 1702. So what part of this law allows you to use force against Ms. Martinez?
Your Honor, just for clarification, I believe there's been some changes to the code. Can Mr. Rafael show that this is the applicable law at the time this happened?
Well, this was produced to you about 2 years ago.
I understand, but it's not my job to do your job, Mr.
Here, it's
Raphael.
just-
Go back up.
Your Honor,
That's fine.
Let me just say this, Mr. Tovar, if you know that this was the act that was this was the law that was in place at the time of this incident, you can say so. If you don't know, then you can also say that.
Yes, sir.
was this the law at the time of the incident?
What law? I'm just looking at Texas Private Security Act.
Private Security Act.
That's through the state of Texas. I mean, it was this legislature. That's who regulated it. But we follow under, I don't know which one that is. I'm familiar with that one, but we're majority showed occupation 17.02 and so on for there. That gives us the rules and guidelines. So the one that I'm familiar with is the Texas Private Security Bureau. So I don't know if that's the same one or they changed or what.
Texas Occupation Code Chapter 1702, Private Security.
Okay, yes.
Can you show the date, Mr. Raphael?
I've shown the date.
Okay,
Twice.
that's fine. That's fine. It's the same one. That's fine. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
A lot of notes. Okay, Mr. Tovar, if you can, I'm going to read a portion of the Texas Private Security Act. Texas Occupation Code 1702-102, Security Services Contractor License Required. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And A, does it state, unless the person holds a license as a security service contractor, a person may not act, and I highlighted here, guard company. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Were you acting as a guard company at the time?
That's my own entity?
Correct.
No, I was represented through BCFI. I was employed through Bureau of Crime Force Investigators.
Okay, and then it says here, number 3, engage in business activity for which a license is required under this chapter. You see that?
Correct.
You know if BCFI's license was active in August of 2017?
It should have been because I gave a copy of our license and our insurance whenever we did the new contract with Paisanos, when I gave it to Vicky.
You gave that contract to Vicky, huh?
Correct.
If I may share your screen again, Your Honor. This is from public records. In order to, and this is being used, this has actually been produced, but the records from Bureau of Crime Force Investigators. Do you see that, Mr. Tovar?
Yes.
And at the top there, it says Texas Department of Public Safety.
Okay.
Let me read here.
Read where?
Hold on here. I think I'm pulling it up. I can't even read it. One moment. Okay, that was
Your Honor, if I may, while they're looking at that, I've looked at the code. The version that Mr. Raphael does have up, there was a amendment in 2019, and I can attach it to the chat if the court would like.
Well, 2019 is not the relevant time period, though, right?
Correct. That's what I'm saying. So between 2013 and 2019 is.
And my concern, Judge, was I wanted to make sure they're looking at the applicable one and not the one that was enacted in 19. That's all. That's the only reason I asked that question.
Okay. All right, let's keep going.
trying, Your Honor. I'm trying. Just a lot of information. Well, let me just read through the act, then I'll get to that one. Were you an owner of BCFI, Mr. Tovar?
That was the agreement we had with Warren. But Warren was the initial owner before we did the DBA to reinstate ownership.
But you don't have that agreement, do you?
Just through the DBA. That's the
But
reason
he's
why.
not-
No, that's why we kind of fell out, because the fact was that's why the companies no longer exist either. It's because me and Stewart, when we agreed, we were bringing contracts, what we had, and that was agreement to get part ownership. And apparently that never fulfilled as far as what he was supposed to do through the state to give us part ownership just through the DBA. And I didn't know anything about that. I thought, hey, okay, you put your signature on DBA, hey, you own something, but obviously you don't.
Well, DBA is not a company; it's a DBA.
But that's what I said. I was unaware of that. I didn't know anything about that.
But you thought you were the owner at the time in August 2017.
That was partner owner. Yes, partner.
Were you listed on Top's website as a partner owner?
As I stated before, like I told you, once all that was implemented, the admin of BCFI, whoever did all the paperwork, all that stuff was supposed to take care of that. We just put our signatures, submitted all the paperwork. They were supposed to take care of that.
And did
From
you
my
pay
understanding,
them?
it was supposed to be taken care of. But once we later found out that, hey, there was actually no ownership agreement or whatever, that I thought the DBA ensured us that we had some type of partnership agreement.
Okay, so you see here it says the person acts as a guard. This is 1702-108. Person acts as a guard company for the purposes of chapter if they employ individual described or engages in the business of or undertakes provide, and you can see the rest, right? Private watchman, guard, or street patrol service or contractual basis for another. Now, you were doing that at the time in August of 2017, right?
That was doing what?
You were providing security services
Correct, under BCFI.
in a contract that we've never seen.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, the contract was written, she signed it, I gave it to her, and copy was given to BCFI, and that's all I know.
But you were an owner. You just testified you were one of the owners of BCFI. You didn't keep a copy?
No, I said I was supposed to be partner owner. The DBA did not establish that I was actually owner.
Okay. And Anna Obregon, from your checks, did you pay the other guards from the checks you personally received from El Paisano?
We cashed the checks, like I said before, we cashed the checks, went to the office, gave it to the payroll, and they dispersed it however they needed to disperse it.
All right. And you, sir, you were acting as a security officer under 1702-222. Is that correct?
Licensed commissioned security officer, correct?
And so under this, at the time, you were acting as a security officer, right?
That was what?
You were acting as a security officer in August of 2017?
I was a licensed commissioned security officer, correct?
And for BCFI,
Yes.
which was not listed on your TOPS application?
That was, like I told you before, that was a lot of problems we've had in the security industry, that a lot of the companies weren't filing the proper stuff. So there is a fine for that, and that's what the state has to take care of.
Anna Obregon was not licensed at the time of this incident. Is that correct?
No, she should have been licensed. She was licensed. She had a credential. She gave them to the police officer. I don't see how that going to detect anything. Like I told you before, we don't take care of that part. I don't take care of that. That's all through the state. We put us information in. The state takes care of that.
That's your word against what's public record. So you're saying that, but we see in the public record that she wasn't licensed at the time. Is that correct? In the public record, was she licensed?
Well, then she wasn't licensed. Then she would have got in trouble that night on August, whatever time the incident, because the officer ran the checks and verified credentials.
That's what you're stating, but we don't know that.
Well, I know that for a fact because I've seen Dallas police officers arrest security officers. I've seen security officers get arrested for impersonating security officer, which is a felony. Just as impersonating a police officer.
Did you have an active insurance policy covering your security work at the time?
From BCFI, I gave the copy of the insurance and the license, like I stated before. Anytime we give any agreement or any type of contract agreement to the client, we give a copy of our company license and our insurance policy.
Well, again, we've never seen those documents, and it's been 3 years of us requesting it from.
Sorry, Mr. Ruffy, I don't know what to tell you that. Like I told you before, that was all given to BCFI. And like I said, I don't know what to tell you.
If you didn't see the depositions of Griselda Ramirez, her daughter, and Vicky Salazar, would you have said Vicky Salazar?
What about Vicky?
Were you told to say Vicky Salazar is who you gave everything to?
No, that's who I had in contact. Like I explained before, I never knew Griselda was the owner until after the incident, wherever the issues they had when Vicky was gone. That was the first time I ever met the owner.
You never met
actually it was Deanna, the daughter Deanna. That's whenever she wrote the checks, and that's when I never questioned it. We were getting our check. My officer was getting paid.
Mr. Raphael, I really get what's happening here, and
okay.
you can keep arguing with the witness as long as you like. But it's really,
All right. Well,
I
last
get
question on
this.
the top. Last question on the top, Your Honor. So after August, you stayed on working for El Paisano till December, correct?
Correct.
And all that time, you're not listed on any company's license on the TOPS website, correct?
Like I stated before, I submitted my stuff. It should have been on there. I don't check TOPS for the fact because it's a pain in the ass to try to log on. We got to put these special characters and codes. I don't have time for that.
I thought you
I
said
know, because I know for a fact that I'm certified and licensed. Like I showed you my license. I've had my license since day one. And I don't do anything illegal like that because that's a felony. That's the last thing I want to do is go to jail. This is my life and butter here that I provide for my family. I'm a single father with 2 kids. I sure in the hell ain't going to jeopardize that.
well, but that's our predicament here. Either you assaulted Miss Martinez on your own accord, or you were told to do it by somebody who knew.
I
you
never
were-
assaulted your client. I advise you that pepper spray was administered for the simple fact for the safety of my others and to where she was being combative towards me, assaulting me. I was the one that got assaulted.
You
And the
pulled her out
only
of the
reason we're
restaurant.
here is because I
Who
didn't press
pulled her out of the
charges.
restaurant?
I'm sorry, you said something? I'm sorry, I apologize.
You said you pulled her out of the restaurant. Were you
I
told to take
escorted her.
out? Were you
I
told
escorted
to
her,
do
sir.
that? Or
I
you
never
just
pulled her.
walk
I
around and
escorted
do
her.
that? Let me finish the question. Were you told to escort her out, or you can just take anybody out of that restaurant whenever you wanted? Which one is it?
Ms. Lori, like I've explained before, the situation, the altercation was rising. Once your client jumped over the counter to where it was endangering the safety of the patrons and my shift manager, that's where I felt I was obligated to go ahead and de-escalate the situation to where I escorted your client out, Ms. Martinez. So at that time, it didn't matter if it was the president of the United States. If there was an endangerment, just like it was a Secret Service, they saw some type of threat or whatsoever, or someone was in danger, what are they going to do? Move them out of there, out of the way, de-escalate it.
This is not like protecting the president of the United States. This is $2.50 of tortillas.
Exactly, but is it worth getting in a fight over for $2.50? What
You tell us, Mr.
what
Tovar.
Ms. Martinez was trying to do?
That's what we're asking you.
Exactly.
That's what we're asking you. So a few more questions. One last question. I'm sorry, Your Honor. You know the Mr. Tovar. You know the Texas Private Security Act well. Are you allowed to wear a shirt with a security logo or the word security on it if you are not licensed at the time?
Why would I wear a shirt that doesn't have the company logo? You have to have the company logo.
Are
I'm
you
not
allowed-
understanding your question. I'm sorry.
If you are unlicensed, are you allowed to wear a shirt that has the word security on it?
If you're unlicensed, then you're considered a level 2. That means you do not carry your gun whatsoever. That means you still represent the company that you're representing, which you're contracted under the guidelines that gives us by the Security Bureau. Now, however, for me to carry my sidearm, like I explained, I am level 3 certified. I've been level 3, I've been level 4 certified. So there's no reason for anything where any conspiracy or anything showing that I'm operating illegally. That uniform shirt represented the company that I represented and that I take and adhere to like any other job that I have done. I work
You
with
represented the
professionalism
company,
and
you
courtesy.
weren't on any of their books, right?
That what now?
You weren't on any of their.
Mr. Raphael, you're just arguing with them at this
Right,
point.
I'm sorry.
I get it.
Thank you. Your Honor.
Please move on.
Let me look at my notes and I'm almost done. Let me just,
Okay.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Payman, do you have anything?
Yes, Your Honor, just to clarify some stuff. There was an item that Mr. Raphael put on the screen and very quickly removed. Do you remember that?
You have to show me again. I honestly can't remember. sir.
I'll show it to you. May I share my screen, Your Honor?
You may.
Okay. Do you remember him putting this item up on the screen?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. Let's look at this. Let me enlarge it if I may. Okay. Do you see? This says this is from DPS, Texas Department of Public Safety.
Correct.
DPS Texas company license insurance reinstatement. Do you see that?
Correct.
Okay. And what's the company name listed here?
Bureau of Crime Force Investigators.
And it says that their insurance was suspended on January 31st, 17, correct?
Correct.
And it says company license number,
Correct.
Bureau Crime Force Investigators company license number, correct?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, can you make a note of this number, C18393, if I may ask the court?
Sure.
Okay. No. Again, I'm not good with, let me use the same website that Mr. Raphael keeps using, claiming that no such company existed. Let me share my screen again.
I didn't testify that, and I didn't say it doesn't exist.
Okay, let me show this. This is from TOPS,
Yes, sir.
and it says Crime Bureau, Crime Force Investigators. Your Honor, can the court confirm that it's the same number?
Same number.
Thank you. So can we agree that there was a company called Bureau Crime Force Investigators, and in fact, their license was, their insurance was suspended in January of 2017, which means they were in existence before January 2017. Their license was suspended, and then they got reapplied, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now here's the proof that we're looking for, that Crime Bureau, and thanks to Mr. Raphael for giving me that information with the number. So that's proof that Crime Bureau Force Investigators existed. Whether
Yes,
he
sir.
can find it on TOPS or not, that's not your problem, is it?
No, sir.
You knew that this company existed?
Yes, sir. It was a
You
pre-existing
knew
company.
you knew Warren Christopher Williams that owned the
I knew
company?
the owner of the company. Yes, sir.
And he said, move over to us and we take over the contract, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is that what you did?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Got the contract signed, and I gave them the copy, and then the copy to Vicky, and everything was supposed to be going from there.
So what DPS has done, why Mr. Raphael cannot find what I just found, it's
I
not
never
your
said I
problem.
couldn't find it, Your
Is it?
Honor. I never said that. We showed it existed on Miss Obregon's license. It just, she wasn't licensed until the end of
Your
August.
Honor, it's the dating. The date showed that their insurance was expired on January 17th. So I want to show that means they were in existence before that. That's the point.
That's
I'm-
illegal.
What proof is there that Mr. Tovar was affiliated with BCFI on the date of the incident, though? That's, I guess, what I'm missing.
Well, his testimony that, as Mr. Cano testified yesterday, Judge, the obligation was on the company back then to submit the paperwork. He testified he submitted his paperwork to BCFI.
There's just nothing on TOPS that indicates that, or in any public.
I agree with you, Judge, but also we've also
And
established.
I don't mean to interrupt, Mr. Payman, but that's the problem, Your Honor. That's the problem we have in the industry. It's the proper notification as updating licenses, your terminations.
I'm going to object, Your Honor. He's not an expert on this. What's the problems in the industry?
Well, I keep up with the House bills, and I'm also a member with the CIS, and I'm also a member with a couple of colleagues from the member of the Security Bureau Chambers.
I just wanted to make that point.
Okay.
Mr. Tovar, final questions, hopefully we can get out before 5. Who provided you the gun that you carry?
I purchased that myself.
What about the uniform?
That's through BCFI.
Who provided you with the bulletproof vest?
That was obtained while I was in law enforcement.
What about the baton?
I've obtained that.
Pepper spray?
Obtained that.
Flashlight?
Obtained that.
Did you have anything on you, any of the tools of the trade that you used that were furnished to you by El Paisano?
No.
Except maybe a glass of water or a drink as you testified earlier.
Correct. Just a beverage.
All right. And I think you testified already, and I think you testified already, as the expert in the security, being the officer, maybe I shouldn't use the word expert, as the experienced person, is it up to you to decide how to complete the task that you're assigned, or is it up to El Paisano to control your how you do your work?
Well, it varies with the client. I mean, we wanted to, like I said, we do an assessment. We give our recommendation to the client, and we sit down and or just have a verbal, however you want to do it. And we come to an understanding, and basically what it is, hey, this is what we can do. This is what we cannot do. This is what gives our rules and regulations allows us to do.
So they tell you, they give you let me call it a task. You're assigned a task that you agree on. This is the task we're willing to do for you, right?
Yes, sir.
Who dictates how that task is performed, El Paisano or you?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Who controls how the task is performed? Who decides where Anna stands, where you stand, where do you go around, and who controls the performance of that? Is it you or El Paisano?
That would be me. That would be me, because we're the experienced, we're the experienced personnel.
In fact, your contract says they're not even allowed to interfere with it. At least the contract we saw with Delta, correct? It says that they're not allowed to interfere.
Correct.
Right. And you take that seriously, don't you?
Yes, because the reason for us to be there is to prevent situations, prevent liability, present any safety insurance to where we can ensure to the client that we can provide safety and deterrent for them.
What kind of, if they knew how to do it, they wouldn't need to hire you, right?
Correct.
Makes sense. All right. Thank you very much. Pass the witness.
2 more questions then, Your Honor, and then at one point, but Mr. Tovar, did Mr. Pema just inform you that BCFI's insurance was suspended in 2017?
That's an insurance reinstatement, correct?
But it was suspended in 2017, correct?
That's an insurance reinstatement. You have to do that when your insurance lapses. You have to reinstate that.
And is it a violation of the Security Act to have insufficient insurance coverage to act as security?
You have a time frame from the time that it expires to re-up your insurance. You have a certain amount of time.
Okay. And I know, Your Honor, I do want to bring up to the court's attention the fact that Mr. Tovar has testified to having multiple pieces of evidence that we have not seen. Reason to believe maybe the defendant.
Mr. Raphael, I get all of that, and I'm taking that into account.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything else?
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Palin?
Nothing further from this witness, Your Honor.
Is Mr. Tovar released from his subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Tovar, you're released from your subpoena. Thank you so much for your testimony.
Yeah, folks, have a good day. Thank you.
You too. All right, call your next witness.
Defense rest, Your Honor.
Okay, so let's kind of talk about where we're going from here. The nice thing about a bench trial is you get a little bit of feedback before you do your closing. I'm going to give each side, I was thinking 25 minutes tomorrow to do closings. I told you I would give you some instructions on that. Mr. Shalaki did a good job today of kind of, I think, highlighting the, I don't agree with a lot of what he said, but he did a good job of highlighting the different issues in the case. To me, there was 3 basic issues. One is the right to control or the employment of the security company. The second one is what actually happened in the incident, who is responsible for it. And third is the damages. On the first issue, I'm just kind of telling you, I've already decided that given the history in this case, that I'm going to find that the defendant did have the right to control the Mr. Tovar. I don't find persuasive at all that he was working for BCFI, that there was some kind of report that that any of that stuff is true that he just brought up today. And so I'd encourage you not to really argue that tomorrow. You can if you want to, but you only have a limited amount of time.
Yes, sir.
So where I find that the area that really is difficult is who's really responsible for this incident. They have 2 such different stories about what happened. There is a lot of information there that I think kind of supports the defendant's version of this. But I am concerned that, it didn't appear that Ms. Obregon was licensed. It doesn't appear that Mr. Tovar was related to a security company at the time of the incident. All of those are issues, but what happened in the actual interchange between the 2 of them, I think is really kind of unclear. So you might want to argue that. But the big issue to me is damages and how do you determine damages? I've rarely seen such a kind of bizarre history. And so obviously there was some pre-existing conditions, post conditions, all sorts of information about Ms. Martinez's medical history that is very, I don't know how to put it, but just it's hard to figure out what is actually related to this incident versus her previous accident versus what happened afterwards versus the stroke and all that stuff. So I would encourage you to spend most of your closing on that issue because I find that really difficult to parse through. And so I would encourage you to that be the primary issue. As I understand it, what causes of action do you have and against who at this point, Mr. Raphael?
Good amount of causes of action, Your Honor, but just grab my notes. I know we have assault and battery.
Assault and battery by who?
I mean, I'm sorry, intentional infliction of bodily injury, and that's through their security guard, Tovar, who was controlled by them to take her out. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligence, gross negligence. And I'm pulling up the final findings of fact. Sorry, Your Honor. False imprisonment also, where he mentioned that he cuffed her. Sorry, my computer it's taking a beating today. Okay, I got it here. As mentioned, Your Honor, so infliction of bodily injury, intentional infliction of emotional distress, false imprisonment, and then there's negligence and gross negligence as to Paisano when it comes to their control of Mr. Tovar and their guards. They're failing to properly train, retain, supervise their employees, failure to exercise reasonable care, and that they were the proximate cause of this incident. Furthermore, and just a lot of steps within that under negligence. And then we do believe that there's gross negligence. I mean, especially the fact with the history of this case that they kept Mr. Tovar on a year and a half afterwards, which has been shown while he was unlicensed, and not having any witnesses, even though it's been shown in testimony how many witnesses have been there. The only person who's talked about this from the defense perspective is the guard who attacked him. Lastly, just negligence per se and all the different violations of the Texas Private Security Act, which does fall upon El Paisanos because they made control and the ratifications of it, and that they're vicariously liable for Mr. Tovar's actions as well as Ms. Oberdon's.
So what I want you to do, because there's a lot to unpack there, is I don't need a full jury charge. I'd like each side to submit kind of what they think, if there was a jury, how you'd submit this. Is there comparative as to the like false imprisonment, intentional battery, all that kind of stuff? Can you even have a company? I've never seen that. You know, can the company commit battery? I'm not sure that they can. To me, the simpler way to do this, I'm not saying that we have to do it this way, is to do it as kind of more of a traditional negligence. Who is really responsible for this? How much of this was on Mr. Tovar? How much was it on her? And then what element? So first would be negligence. Second question would be percentages. Third question would be damages. And then fourth question would be on, I do think there could be grounds for gross negligence here, but want to hear argument on that. You can make all these other claims and we can talk about it. I'm not sure how we parse through that. If you would have, is there a finding on negligence? Is there a finding on and battery? Is there a finding on, all of those different claims, false imprisonment? It gets complicated. And then anyway, and so does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yes, Your Honor, but I closed and then you started telling us what to do tomorrow. I did want to bring it to the court's attention that I do want to raise some issues as far as the damages model based on some issues. So if you could allow us maybe 15, 20 minutes tomorrow, I don't mind starting early if the court wishes to, because those are issues.
Well, I already said you could have 25 minutes for closing.
I'm talking about arguing some motions, Judge, some motions to.
Motions for what? Well,
one example, Judge, in their disclosures, their last disclosures, they never gave us the method of calculating the damages. They were asking for $1.6 million in future meds without providing any evidence of it. But I think there has been no evidence of future meds. lost wages is $650,000 without providing us with any, or providing the court with any method of calculating as required mandate.
Your Honor, he's talking about what was in the proposed findings of fact.
Judge, Judge, can I have the respect? Let me finish and then I'll stop and I'll let Mr.
Yeah, let him finish.
So under the Texas law, and I've got the Alvarez case, which is out of, I believe it may be Fort Worth or Supreme Court, that says if you don't provide the method of calculating, you don't get it. They have failed to provide the method. Let's stay with what he did in his disclosures. He failed to provide the method of calculating anything. There's no evidence presented for me to be able, the model that's required for lost wages. She just says, I worked here, I worked there. And then future meds, I assume the future meds is out of the window, which is what, I haven't heard anybody talk about that. But as far as—
Is that in the medical the future meds, are they in the medical records, or where do they come? I don't know where they come from.
I don't know either, Judge. But there was no evidence presented to court as to future meds. So I want to make sure that we don't get hung up on that. And to the point that you said very well, that was a very well point, and I was hoping that you raised it. There's a Texas Supreme Court case on point. It's a 2015 Supreme Court case that addresses your exact concern about when you have two injuries, different times, similar type of injuries, head injury or whatever they want to call it, pelvic injury, where it says the burden is on them through expert testimony to separate them. So you can't just say, and it's a Supreme Court case, Judge, and I'll be more than happy to share it with you and Mr. Raphael later today. And I'll pop it up here if you want to see it real quick. This is the case that addresses the issue, Judge. Can you see it?
Yeah, this is going to take longer than, I'm not fussing with you. I just need to contact my court to let them know to cancel more hearings tomorrow. And I'm not fussing with you. This is complicated. Give me 1 second.
I'm available in the afternoon if you want to do it after lunchtime, Your Honor. Did you guys hear me, Michael? Oh, okay.
What I might do is, I've already canceled my 9 to 10. What I might do is, if I'm not sure how long it's going to take to argue all of this stuff, what we might do is, we'll just have to see how this goes. We might do the kind of the Mr. Payma's motions and putting together the jury charge, or the charge, so to speak, and then do the closings in the afternoon. But I'm going to try to see if we can cancel our entire morning docket.
Your Honor, I believe proposed jury charges were submitted to you before the February 2nd trial date.
Were they? Okay, I haven't seen that, but I'm not disagreeing with you.
So if you look around the February date of this year, you will see jury charges already prepared. I think so, but I'll check on it to make sure it has. If it doesn't,
no, let me take a look at that. I can look it up. You said in February you thought they were submitted?
Yes, Your Honor, and so much has changed since then, so we may need to change them. Mr. Raphael and I may need to change those based on the guidance the court gave us.
Oh, this is the wrong case. Okay, let me look it up.
17-17-249.
Mr. Payman, would you mind providing us with the site for the Alvarez case you were?
Yes, I will email it to the coordinator for judge's benefit and to Mr. Raphael today.
Okay.
Or if you want the site, I can just give you the site. That's one of the cases that I have.
Okay.
You said February, you thought there was a jury charge.
Yes, Your Honor. We all submitted jury charges prior to the first
Well, the previous trial setting.
I see defendant's jury charge. The plaintiff, when did the plaintiff submit their jury charge? Do you know?
Was submitted, Your Honor, on 24th of February.
Yours was?
Yes, Your Honor.
There we go. Okay, I see it. Okay.
I have not looked at it since February, Judge, so I don't know if it's still
I'm
good.
going to share screen it.
Sure.
So this is good. I like how you did this for the negligence. It's kind of what I was envisioning.
Is that mine or his, Judge?
His.
Okay.
Tovar is not part of this anymore, right?
Yes, he is.
Now we're going to put them all together.
I thought Tovar is he still a party?
Yes, Your Honor. It's still a party. It was the company that was dismissed.
Okay. Yeah, this is good.
Your Honor, if you've already found for the right for control, would that not be redundant to have him in the charge?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, is just put him on one blank. Can you all see this okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
You know, I think with this one this might actually kind of work. This is a good charge.
Did I amend it, Your Honor, though? And we can just make it all one instead of having to do Tovar and Paisanos?
I think the judge can just cross it out if he wants to.
Yeah. Are you only asking for exemplary damages against Tovar or against both? Both. Okay, I see. Are there any other? I haven't looked at your charge, Mr. I guess what I want you to do is you guys confer tonight over this and submit me kind of I don't need it as a jury charge, but just something I can fill out so I can give it back to you guys. This is really helpful. This is a really good charge. So let me ask this. So let's say that on the negligence, let's say, I find that there's comparative here. I guess.
If you went up, there should be a percentage place, Judge.
Right. That's all fine. But then you have this false imprisonment, the assault, the intentional infliction, all that stuff. I guess there's not a comparative finding as to those, right?
Right.
So the idea would be if you found, I think you need to think about this just if you want to keep these in, this is just a recommendation. This is not a ruling. What I would recommend is we do for question 1 and 2 have El Paisano and Tovar together as one blank, and then Martinez is the other blank. Question 3, I've already found a yes. But then, and then for, I guess, false imprisonment, then you would have El Paisano on that. 5, you would have assault. I assume you'd take that out, maybe. And then severe emotional distress. I guess, it's interesting. I've never really had an issue. I'm not sure really what the law is. If you find yes as the intentional infliction, I assume then there's no comparative as to do we need to have different finding on damages for each of these, or is this the correct way to do this?
Because without compensatory, they all go to the same place. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So look at question number 8. This is, I guess, where I'm getting my kind of question about this. It says, if you answered yes to question number 1 for more than one of those listed, but is that those listed where? There needs to be a proper predicate here.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my question is, okay, let's say on question 1, this is probably not going to be my answer, but I say 99% for the plaintiff, 1% for the defendant, but then I find yes as to false imprisonment. Are these still the damages? Or is the defendant responsible for 100% of the damages? Or should there be a separate damages question for some of the different causes of action, depending on, because the injury related, anyway, I'm not, maybe that.
Your Honor, usually what happens is.
Your Honor, may I make a suggestion?
What's that?
I can't see you. My suggestion is, if the court, we can do it different. We can do the motion tomorrow, and then we can do closing. And then if the court says, I find no false imprisonment, but I do find negligence, and this is the percentage, then we can put something together. But right now, with 10 causes of action, it's going to be a 40-page document. Because I think the purpose of what you're trying to achieve is to have something in writing that says what you found. Usually in bench trials, we don't do a jury charge, but I guess the court could say, I found, hypothetically, I'm just throwing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make it easier for y'all when you prepare your judgment. I guess that's.
Well,
I guess we would need to get down to the bottom. Is there comparative or contributory on a finding of assault?
A finding of assault, intentional infliction.
Right.
I think that's the basic issue.
Right.
False imprisonment. Is there a comparative finding as to that? And do we need to break out the damages are the same damages recoverable for those causes of action if the injuries aren't the same?
Right. But I think if there is contributory for assault and for those, then that solves our problem. But if there's not, then I think we need to deal with the damage issue.
Judge, I can put it up real quick. I have my cause of action with you. Cheat sheet.
What did you say?
I said I have my cause of action book here, my cheat sheet. So if you tell me which one you want, I can pull it up. So for example, we have assault, correct? Infliction of bodily injury. I can tell you if it has it or not.
Is there comparative on that?
So I can say something. Judge, usually what happens whenever there's several causes of action, they assign it to the person, like for example, X, Y, Z had that cause of action, but the damage model applies as to the percentage as to the people that had the cause of action. For example, vicarious liability goes to the company. The negligence goes, for example, to the individual that caused because a company, as you said, cannot commit an assault.
I'm not so sure that's the case. I mean, just Googling it, there are articles about vicarious liability. We don't typically see it because it's an exclusion in insurance.
That's what I believe the law is, but then again.
Vicarious liability for
Your Honor, there are defenses, justification, self-defense. There are, I'm looking for the word comparative.
So it may be a defense to assault that it was
No,
self-defense.
you can hear me, Judge, right?
A bar.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear him.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I had to turn my volume down so it doesn't echo.
Anyway, I do think you guys should, you guys don't seem to agree to anything, but it would be helpful if you guys would agree to attempt to try to agree to some kind of charge for me to fill out. It won't be an official document, but at least would give me some guidance on how I should rule tomorrow. So, for example, there may be defenses to some of these causes of action that need to go in there, like self-defense and things like that.
So I think
So
those need to be pled as well. If it's not going to, I mean, it would have to.
yeah, I don't know what's been pled, so that's a very good point. If it hasn't been pled, it's not coming in. So what I want you to do is what I usually call, maybe this is too optimistic. Maybe we should do this on Tuesday because I have a feeling you guys will be up until 3 a.m. But to do what I call as a red line, blue line, what I do for jury charges, you may have heard me speak about this, is to submit a charge to me. Anything that's agreed to is in black. Anything that the plaintiff wants, the defense doesn't, would be in blue. And anything that the defense wants, the plaintiff doesn't, would be in red. And have it all as one document. Do you think there's going to be a big difference between the two of you as to that issue or not?
Your Honor, if I may just speak briefly, I totally understand what you're saying, but my suggestion was if we argue our motions tomorrow and the case law that I would like the court to read, and then if I'm not successful convincing you, then I think the court can announce its verdict that I find on this issue 70-30 or 60-40 or 55-45, whatever, and this is the damages. Then we can go and put it together because then we don't need to argue. So for example, if you say, I don't find false imprisonment, Mr. Raphael and I don't need to argue, and we can present that to you on Tuesday. You mentioned Tuesday, and then you can just sign it. Because that's usually how on a bench.
I'm not sure, but my problem is I'm not sure if I can really make rulings without knowing what the law is.
Well, that's what I wanted to give you the law tomorrow. If you allow us to do that on the issues, then I think then you can make maybe tomorrow afternoon or over the weekend, make your ruling, let us know, and we'll draft a judgment pursuant to your ruling, because I think it's my suggestion, because I think Mr. Raphael.
I respectfully, I see what you're getting at, but I don't feel comfortable shooting in the dark.
Okay.
I kind of feel like what you're asking me to do is shoot in the dark. I want to get it. I need to know. I know the facts. I want to make sure. Normally, if this was a jury trial, we would have been conferring about all of this, putting together the charge. Most of my non-jury cases, the charge hasn't been quite what I'm supposed to decide isn't usually quite this complicated because there's so many causes of action. And so I want to give and I don't know what's been pled, what hasn't been pled, what's been argued, what's been properly designated as the damage, what hasn't been properly designated. And so that's why I'd like to get this red line, blue line to figure out what the area of conflict is. And if it turns out that the only issue is what damages are going to be submitted, then I have no problem with that. But if there's really an issue as to what the causes of action are and how they're submitted, then I would probably suggest that we meet tomorrow, kind of figure all of that stuff out. If we can, we'll do closings. If not, I'll give you the weekend to kind of work this up, and then we do closings on Tuesday.
That's what I was going to say. What you're asking us to do, it's been a long 4 days, Judge. If you would give us that time, so we do what we need to with Mr. Raphael and I over the weekend, Monday, whatever that it be, and then we'll come back, do the closing, and submit a charge that hopefully we can agree on. If not, we'll red line, blue line it.
So tomorrow, so what we'll do tomorrow is we'll just go ahead and meet to go over your motions, Mr. Pema, and then so that'd be kind of like your directed verdict, so to speak. And then we'll talk about the charge. If there's anything you guys have figured out, or if you've reached an agreement, take a close look at his charge and see if there's stuff in there that you think we need to fight about. And then we'll plan on doing closings on Tuesday. How does that sound to everybody?
That sounds great and fair, Judge.
Mr. Raphael?
I'm in agreement with that. I could take a breather.
Yes,
Well,
we finally agreed on one thing, so it's not a
that's
bad.
a first.
That's
That
a
has got to
first.
be a first at this
If only I could
case.
have seen those motions. Yeah, that's fine.
But anyway, but so be prepared tomorrow does he know what motions you're going to be arguing?
I will be arguing the motions on damages based on the disclosure. I'll be arguing on damages because of lack of evidence, no evidence of certain things. And I will be arguing on, it's been a long day, Judge. Damages and the fact that, just like you said, head injury twice, I think it's been established. And how do you differentiate between the two? To be able, so I don't want you to award damages.
One other thing I think that would be helpful to hear about tomorrow is your argument that there has to be expert testimony that distinguishes between the damages.
Yes, sir.
That would be something good to argue. That would probably be something good to talk about tomorrow too.
Yes, sir.
So kind of talk about damages. I think this cause of action stuff, I think you guys really need to think this through to figure out what you want to submit, what you don't want to submit, and how you want to submit it. Because I don't want to go through a 3-day trial and then we screw something up at this last minute about what should be submitted. And if there is a, what I said about how I suggested we do the, how I suggested we do everything on both the Tovar and the company on the same blank. If there's something problematic about doing it that way, that Mr. Raphael, you don't want to do it that way, because I did have a case once a number of years ago in a medical malpractice case where I got reversed because I submitted that part of the charge, even though I tried to get the parties to agree, they would not agree on how to submit it, whether the nurse should be on a separate blank or not. It may be a different issue here. I don't want to commit reversible error on that issue. And so that was just a suggestion I want you guys to really think about. Is that the appropriate way to do this in this particular circumstance? So.
And just to make sure, Judge, I wrote this down. You said the 3 areas that you want us to talk about would be right of control, what happened, and the damages, correct?
That was the closing arguments, yeah.
Yes, Your Honor. Right.
And I've already decided the first, so you don't really need to talk about that much. Just,
Maybe I can convince you otherwise through some, I understand.
I've heard 3 days of testimony. I've made a decision. So
Yes, sir.
the others, the damages is where I'm really, really unclear.
Yes, sir.
So that's, I would urge, and kind of the liability, especially with these different causes of action. I think they're tough, but damages really, I would encourage, this is not a ruling, but 1/3 of it on liability and 2/3 on damages, because I really think you need to lay those out.
Yes, sir.
That's not required. That's just a suggestion.
And
you could spend all 30 minutes arguing about control, and then you're going to
waste my time.
Waste your time.
So tomorrow we're going to argue about my motions.
Your motions. This is the directed verdict phase.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then if we can start talking about the charge, that would be great. And then on Tuesday we'll finish everything out.
And Your Honor, what time do you want us?
9.
9 o'clock. Yes, sir.
And
Back.
when can
And Rhonda was supposed to send you a new Zoom link. I don't know if you got it for tomorrow.
No, sir.
But it's not this Zoom link. It's a different Zoom link for tomorrow.
Let me check, Your Honor.
That's where I was at 1 o'clock on that Zoom link, Your Honor.
Oh, where are you? Okay, so she already got it then. So yeah, so that's the Zoom link for tomorrow.
I did get one Zoom link this morning.
For tomorrow?
No, I got.
Does it say that the 68 District Court hearing docket?
No, sir. What I got was this morning at 9:07. She called. I called. I said I can't get on, and she said
it's a different one. It's a different one. So it'll say 68 District Court hearing docket. Did you get that, Mr. Raphael?
It said a Friday Zoom link to continue trial, but I'm assuming it's
that's the one we got this morning, right, Mr. Raphael?
At 11:19 a.m. she sent it.
Okay, it may be.
Yeah, just
do you mind forwarding that to me, Mr. Raphael?
But Your Honor, I just want to know when we could see the motion that we're arguing at 9 a.m. so they can at least prepare knowing what he's.
This is a trial. You don't always get directed verdicts in writing. So, but Mr. Payne, I will say this: the more that you give him, the more likely that I'll be able to rule on it tomorrow. If you kind of spring things on him, I'm going to probably give him a chance to do some research. So.
I believe I already stated to the court what the issue is. The issue is what the concern you had, the two head injuries, and how do you? I mean, that was the concern you raised, and I said that I do want to move on.
That's a huge issue to me.
Yes, sir.
That and the pelvic injuries. I mean, all the medicals in this case are complicated, and trying to without a medical doctor testifying to it. Figuring out what's related, like this taste and smell thing. I don't know, where does that come from? Does that, I mean, it's a serious injury if it's related to this accident, but I need to have some kind of medical guidance on is that related to this accident or not? That's just to be perfectly.
That's the case law. That's what I was talking about, Judge. Exactly.
So that's a big issue in my mind.
Yes, sir.
That is completely unresolved. All right, guys. Try not to stay up too late tonight. I tried to. My original assignment was going to have you up until 2 a.m. Hopefully, you'll get some sleep. So
you got us up till about 12:30, 1 o'clock.
It'll hopefully not be that bad. All right, guys. Good to see you. We'll see you in the morning.
Thank you,
Your Honor.